All right, people. All right. Whoa. إن الحمد لله وكفاه والصلاة والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى عباده الذين ارتضى ومن بهداهم اهتدى وبآثار أهل المدينة اقتفى وبعد فسلام الله على القوم أهلا وسهلا بكم ومرحبا Juanying Leute, bienvenidos a todos. Pacher Ragle, Khushamatid. As always, people, swagatam, swagatam. My bad. Whoa, I'd actually, let me make sure the sound's coming through. Um, Greetings, all right, from Houston. Houston, we have a problem. Ramadan is here. You're doing it, people. Fahad, I love you forever, Mufti. Oh, Gio, man. Love you too, yar. What's going on? I take it the sound is coming through fine. Yep. Uh, okay, somebody's a hater. I'm sure the admin will deal with them. Let me just check on Facebook too. Can you guys, Frowdy, Fushi, you're doing it, Henna. Alright, Zamani. Let me just check. Right. I take it it's all going through fine anyway. God damn. I had actually been knocked out. I mean, I'd taken, you know what? It's just been a strange last 1-2 days. I don't know, I'd eaten something and just wasn't feeling well, um, and then recuperating. So, which is all good, alhamdulillah. So, my schedule had kind of got knocked completely into orbit, and today, then I thought, all right, now that the gyms are open, I have to go and bless, grace them, come back, and you know what? There's just this, and I thought, let me just take a little nap, and then hopefully, the last of whatever this is, this kind of like, there's a malaise, there's this kind of like, hmm, and then I was just knocked out. I was just completely out for the count, and it's a good thing I got up because actually I didn't. My little one said, "Oh, what day is it? Isn't it Monday nights with Mufti?" I was like, ah. Right, so here I am, people, with the coffee. So, my bad. I thought, you know what? For a split second, I thought, oh, you know what? And then I thought, oh my God, it's the last one before Ramadan. So I have to. Yajib, I gotta make this. So, people, you're doing it. Much love, much love. Let me just bring up the comments as well. Azarati, you're doing it. That's that. Look at that right there. Azarati's always on the ball. um, Salam from New York. Yusuf Hamza, you're doing it. Sami al Imam, you're doing it. You're doing. See, now I'm starting to recognize some of these names. Do you think Dalk is still necessary in a world with high pressure running water? Va, va. Good question. Good question. Um, Samir Imam, love you, Yar Mufti Saab. Geo, man. Love all of you guys. In fact, I want to go through that, this, huh? I want to go through the, the love. I've received something very, it's an appreciation kind of, um, collation, I guess, of different people, put together by some of you guys right here. So Rosa, shukran for that. I dearly appreciate it. And I was just going through it and I thought, you know what? Let me read this on the live. Why not, man? This is all your love. Just putting it back out there to you guys. So, Ramadan Kareem, likewise, people. Am I growing my Ramadan beard? I'd like to say yes. Yeah, I guess so. Let's just go with that. That sounds a lot better. But I mean, actually, I was a bit out of it this weekend, and then my hair just grows so fast. Honestly, that would be. I mean, like that would be like 2.5 days. It'd be like that's just like a full beard, isn't it? Honestly, I'm like, what the hell is going on? My hair grows fast. My nails grow super fast. Honestly, it's annoying because it'll be like they'll look real like I've just cut them. It's been like what 4 5 5 days 6 days. They'll look like really long again, and I'll be like, God. Yeah, same thing with I don't know what it is. It's one of those genetic mutations I must have. Ramadan Mubarak Shah. All right, Ramadan Mubarak Shah, people. There is a whole discussion on whether, I mean, people, some of you may be doing Ramadan tomorrow, some of you may be doing it on Wednesday. It's all good. It's all good. It's not, something to really become kind of all, I don't know, entangled in negatively. It's all good. It's all good. I thought, you know what, with today being this Monday night before Ramadan, let's deal with what's on your mind, people. What's preoccupying your thoughts? Well, I was going to do Ramadan as in tonight, as in Tuesday, but then in Birmingham, I think many mosques are doing it on Wednesday, and then I suppose a lot of my family, as in extended kind of family, my parents and other people are kind of doing it on Wednesday. So I'm just going with that. Why not? And why lie? It gives me an extra day. I'd I'd rather not lie, but lying is haram according to people. So, but I was initially planning on it being tonight. Ramadan Mubarak, Mufti, Shukran, IC Saracen. Are you going to organize an iftar for your fans? I definitely would and will, but the problem is that COVID lockdown restrictions still remain on numbers within gatherings. So even though they've eased up today in England, they've eased up so gyms are open and non-essential shops are open, but they still have restrictions on groups. So I think it's still something like six to a gathering, and I don't know. I think if it's an open place, a bit more, but it's not like full on back on. So even people trying to do weddings and stuff like that, they're not. It's still very limited numbers. But once all of this ends, I'm gonna throw a massive one. Don't worry. I'll do the usual, the arc one. You know what? Everybody come down, man. You know what? We need to arrange a what do we call it? Like a residential. I need to arrange like a weekend spa somewhere, I think. I think that would be awesome, wouldn't it? Just book out a nice place. Could have like a conference room and maybe some very chilled kind of sessions. Not really even said just some get together and just let people chill, I guess. I don't know. I think that sounds so good, but I don't know if that would work if there were so many people because or what number of people would that work with? That's a better question. And in such a setting, what you see, because being structured would just kill the vibe. Because if it's something like a lounging, chilling, um, or unless it's just you have to do it in a non-spa, so it's just a residential. Yeah, I suppose could do that as well. That could work as well. I don't know. I gotta. It's been years since I've thought about these things actually, like a residential. I remember we did one in what was it, 2015? We did and it was good. It was fun, but I remember at the time thinking this could have been done so much better. And yeah, that's food for thought, people. Food for thought. Food for thought. But then I'll need some people to organize it. Let's take a look what's preoccupying your precious thoughts, people. Mufti, what's for Sehri? Well, since I'm not doing it now today, but otherwise there is Salin as always. I think is it lamb Salin or and rice. There you go. Um, you teasing me, nutty nutty. It's people saying free mixing in the. Look, people are adults. They don't need to be micromanaged, do they? Of course, it would be. It wouldn't be gender segregated. I mean, that would be. I mean, I don't know what that means, gender segregated. People would just be people, isn't it? It's hardly for God's sake, People think, oh my God, if there isn't a wall, I mean, if there isn't a wall between men and women, then it just translates in their head as an orgy. This is how weirded out these people are that they just think, what you mean in the same room, men and women? They just picture this and they think, is that what it is? um, Mufti, eggs, sahri, get your protein. Sure, man, definitely, definitely. All right, so what's going on? Uh, if there will be cats, I mean, right? Can I stop fasting because of work? Whoa, well, I don't know what your work is. Mufti, can you publish a paper on why the hadith of Abu Huraira attributed to Quran 4159 is a weak hadith on or before their death or his death? 4159. What verse is that? I'd like to pretend that when you say these numbers like that, they just pop straight in my head. But you guys, some people way underestimate me. You guys way overestimate me. It's like I'll be like, oh no, sorry, that's 4158. This was 415. Okay. I'm not sure what verse that is, but I'll have to check that out. I'm a school teacher. I get thirsty when talking. Can I stop fasting? I tell you what. Let's deal with some fasting questions. We'll do that. We'll in just a moment. We'll get into it, people. We'll get into it. So, what is going down? What is going down, man? Somebody said, "Qabla mautihi." Oh, that verse. Right, qabla mautihi. Yeah, we can discuss that. Why not? Why not? Why not? So many questions to ask, but I'll take this opportunity. Sakandar Khan, you're doing it, yard. You're doing it. Much love for the super chat. To say, without you, I wouldn't be Muslim today. I can't thank you enough. Just don't stop. Geo, yard. Geo. Honestly, I honestly, I don't have words really for your appreciation. Um, it's it's a blessing. That's all I can say. And I don't, I know to some people, I mean, I can understand why they may think that because they're just so toxic. But to some people, they may think I'm just, I don't know, like I'm j- pretending, being fake, or, um, but I'm legitimately saying that, look, I honestly don't, you know, when I say things like I don't feel, I mean, twofold. One, that I don't feel that I at all really deserve just everything, like this whole thing. I genuinely don't. Like, I do think, like, I'm being legitimate. It's not that I, okay, it's not that I think I'm not talented. Or it's that I don't think I'm intelligent, or I do I'm not gonna lie, I recognize these things about myself, but I don't see myself like as talented as being able to touch the hearts of so many people. And I don't, honestly, I still see myself, okay, this is real talk now, yeah. I see myself as a, very still, I don't know, like a, it's hard to explain, but you see, I see myself sometimes, like, with my humor and my stuff, as almost just like a child, but a grown-up child. This is sounds, I don't know if that makes any sense to people. Like, when I was a kid and I would think of an adult, like, let's say I would see people who are 40 years old, or forget 40, even in their 30s. I had I saw people who I pictured as, oh, they're grown-ups. Now that I'm of that age, I don't still see myself like that. I see myself as obviously of that age, but just almost like a child, but a man. A man. I don't. It's weird, honestly. I can't explain it. But I do see other people like that, as very grown up, and this is why I get really, when I, like, on my mind traps, like, connect with professors and people, I see them as very kind of grown up, like very kind of adult, like, just like how I pictured grown ups to be when I was a kid. So, and I'm really surprised how, the amount of respect and even the kind of keenness they have for me, and just people in general as well, because I think to myself, no way, seriously, like, I picture people to be so serious, and I picture them to think, what the hell is this guy always joking and laughing, and surely they can't. But but wow, but they genuinely do. And that really, every time, it surprises me. People think I'm just acting, but I'm not. I'm really, I'm like, whoa, serious. Whoa, do you seriously see me in such light? And so, shukran, honestly, really deeply from my heart. The other thing I wanted to say when I said this is twofold is that, even though I'm I'm online, I'm doing everything, but I really only get a snapshot of maybe the waves that my thought may be making, is through my haters. As weird as this sounds, because, you see, to me, I think, like, okay, I'm there. Let's say I'm making my videos, I'm doing my stuff. But the amount of people that not only get rattled sometimes, but they become obsessed. You see, that reflects a sense of threat to their worldview, to their. And I'm just an individual. I'm not a sect. I'm not a denomination. I'm not like, I'm just an individual. So, for me to be able to really, I don't know, petrify these people to that extent that they become obsessed. I mean, sects, groups, organizations. I mean, they put their time, effort, money to just becoming preoccupied with me. That really gives me a realization at times that, damn, that these people must, they must see me as something so huge, to that they need to kind of I don't know, they need to extinguish whatever it is I'm saying. So yeah, wow. I mean, I do at times. It's like I've read once. Who was it? It was actually a that was from the World War times, where it was a Jewish. I think it was a Jewish scientist or something. But he said that he was speaking about the kind of anti-Jewish propaganda, and he was saying, well, we haven't really produced enough, but he said, whenever I really want to see, like, I want to understand, maybe just get a boost, self-esteem boost, he said, I just read all the propaganda against Jewish people. Because he's like, they're taking over the world, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're controlling the systems, and that's um yeah. So, and then I see all this love from you guys, and really, it does, honestly, it drowns me. It drowns me in a positive way. So, Geo, and I will read some of the. I will read these. I was sent some. I was I was sent this kind of like collage almost of messages, warm thoughts and opinions about me that have been collected by some people who I'm dear to them, and they're dear to me, alhamdulillah. And I read it, and I thought, wow, I felt that, what, let's read some of this on my live. In fact, you know what? I think I've got some screenshots of it. I'm gonna bring it up here. Right. So
if somebody were to say,
somebody was to guess this, so I'll do that. But meanwhile, if you've got any questions, do send them. I will be focusing on your questions as well today, especially this being, just prior to Ramadan. So I don't want right, un momentico. I'm just trying to bring this across. I thought, what a sweet gesture, honestly. So, one moment. What's going on here? You do all of this, and all right. Sorry, that's my bad. This is what I'm saying. If I hadn't been knocked out today, I would have been, you know. But I guess. So that's done. All right. Yep, I have got some screenshots here. I thought, why not? Why not, people? Why not? Why not?
It's not just the stuff that he's saying. It's the idiots. They're donating.
What
They're
this one, man?
They're sharing his stuff. What the? It's not just the stuff he's saying. It's the idiots. They're donating. They're subscribing. They're sharing his stuff.
Don't know what. You see, I haven't removed that video. That's why it's just keep playing itself.
Money to
Okay,
someone.
I'll tell you what. Let's get out of there. Tell you what. Let's bring it up. Trying to bring this up. Is there anything here? No.
So if somebody were to say, how can we believe these ahadith when Google Earth has mapped the whole world? We can zoom in and see everything around us. And
there you go. That's better. All right. So here it is. Right. So people, this had been by some of you guys, really, and sent to me. So I dearly appreciate it. I thought, well, look at this, and you got to check the the message that says that. There you go. So it says there, as you can see, our patron Mufti Abu Layth, but more importantly, you can read the other message that says, love from your haramis. I read that and was in proper stitches. honestly. Right, so here is. I ought to have had all of this already done, really, but because I was KO'd. Right, so there it is. Look, this is just an opening note. I thought, well, let me share it with you guys. So it says, Salam Mufti, we, the supporters hereby, would like to show you appreciation and love. Geo. Right, so that you have had an impact on us, right? They go on, they want to show how much they admire me. When engaging with people, we tend to remember the few negative words that are said to us, but we want you to never forget that you have impacted so many more people positively, and we stand with you. Vah. So, just share one. I haven't got the whole, I've got the thing on my phone, but I've just got these few only screenshots here on the system. A bit, my... Right, so this is an example of how there's an entire collection. So I thought, well, look, I tell you what, let me go through some of these. Why not? Right, so, mi gente, espérame. Be slightly, let's take a little walk through this. So there's Azuz from Kuwait. It's responding to the question, how has Mufti Ji impacted your views and thoughts? Biggest idea, lesson, positive things that you took away from watching Mufti Ji. So Azuz says from Kuwait, ease of deen. Hell yeah. See, that's what the deen is all about. Understanding hadith literature better through his Bukhari series, The Age of Aisha, and the question of apostasy, which was personal to me as I was once agnostic. Wow. Amidst all the negativity, is there anything you want to let him know? Keep it up, boss. You're doing it, Azuz, you're doing it. You're definitely a heavyweight when it comes to today's Islamic intellectualism, and I admire your jihad to refute any ill claim that has fallen upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Islam by those non-Muslims and even Muslims. Darth Vader. Now, I recognize some of these names now from the UK. He says, well, how have I impacted him through Bukhari Gate? Amidst all the negativity, he would like to say Allah is with the righteous, and really do people live to see the impact of their work or receive the appreciation within their lifetime? I guess I'll have to I'll have to wait till I'm kind of gone, and then people will be like, yeah. But that's, I suppose it's just the laws of life, isn't it? It's the laws of life. Nisar Ahmed from UK says, Mufti has answered a lot of my questions and he's tackled. So this is an entire kind of like you got to kind of scroll through the whole thing. He says he has tackled a lot of my questions and a lot of what I believed were problems with modern day mullahs, as in mullahs. Amidst all the negativity, I'd like to say, keep doing you. Am I just doing myself in, or just keep? You helped us so much. May Allah grant you a high rank in Jannah and allow your legacy to help Muslims in the future. Can't wait for your video tafsir of the Quran. I'm pleased to call myself your student. Shukran, Nisar. I'm honored. Honestly, I'm honored. I don't know what I've said about doing a tafsir, but it would, these things would be very, very awesome. Rational faith. All right, I recognize rational faith. Mufti Abu Layth allowed me to think freely about things without conforming to the predetermined values of the traditionalist. Since watching Mufti, I'm happier and more in touch with Islam. His reason-based approach is the future of Islam. Allahu Akbar. Honestly, that there's so, that what Rational Faith has written here. Honestly, this is just summed up my kind of message. Honestly, that has always been it. That if you say you have faith in your life, it ought to make you happy. Not horrible, not hateful, not bitter, and Islam really is just meant to complement your day-to-day life. That's what the deen is meant to do. Right, I highly respect him, and despite things we disagree on, he's my favorite scholar. I'll always have his back. Rational Geo, man, Geo. Right, so, and look, I've read out a comment today from Sami El Imam. You're doing it from Canada. It's written that the things, the biggest ideas and lessons were: one, he's numbered them. He said, one, this isn't your dad's deen. All right, you're doing it. Two, Salafism has a hard grasp on the internet, and it's nearly impossible to find anything that's not dogmatic. That is unfortunately true. 3, showed me that I'm not crazy in being skeptical about hadith. 4, brought me into the Maliki method. Alright, you're doing it. 5, showed me that the deen is a natural one and that should complement your life. Right, what would you like to let me know? That you are super funny. Alright, shukran. That's a gift as well. Because, it's things like humor are something that I suppose we all have humor, but to certain degrees, they just come naturally, don't they? It's something that if you try to fake, it comes across so weird and it just comes across totally, it cannot make people laugh. It's just so cringe worthy. And I personally think that's, something I love so much about life is just humor. Obviously, I get carried away in my humor. And I have to always, whenever I have a serious conversation with people, and that's usually only like one-on-ones, only right. So, like I'm saying with my mind traps, and or just at other times as well, when I have had somebody really needs to talk to me. I suppose if it's just somebody regular, I may not. But if it's like I don't know who they are, but if it's somebody who I have somewhat of an understanding who these people are, or they're in the, they have a standing in a stature of their own right. One of the first things I have to say to them is, look, listen. I have to say, look, just excuse my humor, by the way, please. I know you've probably come across all this stuff I just go on about. And your content is continuously thought provoking. Shukran. Right, Illuminati. Illuminati. Toba. That would be a scandal right there. Illuminate the path from the US. How has Mufti Ji impacted your views? Right, the emphasis on reason and critical thought was huge for me, having to rethink what I believed and to see if it matched the same criteria I held others to in other faiths. That is so important. So important, wallahi. I feel that, these two things, that reason, the voice of reason, and critical thought, which are obviously really just different aspects of the same coin, really different sides to it. But when we examine other faiths, we are so critical that, oh, this doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense. Oh, you think this scripture survived? Like, oh, how do you know it hasn't been altered? How do you know this? How do you know that? The Gospels, like when we say things like, Muslims will say, oh, the Gospels, the earliest kind of documentation was 80 years after Jesus. How do you expect us to believe that? This kind of stuff. But then when it comes to Islam, we completely just put blinkers on our eyes. Like the fact that, the shocking fact that the person who solely carries the weight of Sahih Bukhari, nobody vouched for him for, you know, between 1 to 200 years, like 150 years later or something. We won't. it's it's not that. It's that we won't even blink at that. To us, it'll be like, just doesn't matter. The fact that we'll read things which sound horrendous and we'll just be like, oh, it doesn't matter. This is one of the best criteria. Always in your mind, think, how would I have held somebody of another faith to account? And then reflect that, am I being a hypocrite? So, some words you'd like to let me know. For those who champion reason, the legacy of Abu Layth has been solidified, undoubtedly will go down as one of the greatest in our day and age. True champion in our time of making the deen easy. Technology has your work saved for the future Muslims who value reason to benefit from. Much appreciated, honestly. I feel that, you say technology has saved much of what I've done, and I feel that it has really just saved me, my message, everything. And I don't mean saved as in archived, which it has done. But if it wasn't for technology, a voice like mine could never have reached hardly anyone. Because, you see, people like me will never fit in institutions. You understand? My spirit has never been born to be in a cage. That these shackles and the mold that institutionalized religion presents, unfortunately, the masjids, the organizations, the denominations, these things would never allow a platform. And many, it makes me think at times that how many similar voices, maybe much more enlightened than me, were there, but just died a death because there was nothing to carry their voice. And that's something that I'm so grateful that in this day and age technology that I can just sit here at home. I mean, I said, a few years ago, I don't know if you guys remember, there was I was speaking about how these people are so they were saying, I mean, they still say it, but I was saying this whole cancel culture, obviously the religious cancel culture, that, oh, boycott this mufti, shut him down, boycott. They were like, how do people allow him, and so on. And I responded by saying, Abil Salo, I sit at home. This is just my broadband. I'm not, all I'm doing is just sitting at home, just as I be at home. And I just live stream and just connect with people. And that's all it takes. It's nothing. No, it doesn't cost anything. It doesn't, I mean, apart from just normal costs, which are already running within, at home, internet and stuff, but that's not really costs. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't require some kind of, like, I don't know, some petrol dollars, and it doesn't require institutions. It doesn't, and yet it's enough to dissolve these kind of chains and bonds that these people have on the Muslim public. And I'm so grateful for that. Right. A message for all those who champion reason. Oh, right. I've read that. Shukran. So much love. I do feel, I've said this before. I even said this as a message to people who are training to become imams. I said, and I say this to regular, this is to everyone, that look, wallahi, whether whether people like what I say or they don't like what I say, or sorry, whether they like me or don't like me, but so much of the hard work has already been done for them. Like I mentioned to someone just this weekend. I said, I said that they were, I don't know whether it was 2016 or something like that. And I'd done I think it was when I was preparing for the Age of Aisha video and I'd done that. So at that time, I remember thinking I was engaging a lot in this kind of like what atheists are saying, and I was listening and reading, and I was watching a lot of this whole atheist material. What are they challenging religion with? Hitchens and other people, and so and also Islamophobic stuff and Islam, um, kind of material that's criticizing Islam. I was kind of at that time looking at it. And then I remember drawing up a list on my notes on my phone of topics or questions that I feel are problematic towards Islam, and I need to, let's draw out the list and then let's answer them. And I can't remember how many things were on the list at the time. I think there may have been about like 20 odd things I put down there. And as I'm putting them, many of them were just things that I could answer then. I mean, I could answer. But as I started to zone in, I started to, like let the shackles go and just write things that I think are really challenging. And then, I would leave it and I'd kind of do my normal stuff. And days later, I'd add a question to it. And, I ended up putting certain things down there that I was kind of like, I had no answers to at that time. No answers. And I don't just mean, I could just say, oh, well, it doesn't be like, it doesn't mean this, it doesn't. But you see, to answer something, you need to answer it from scripture with research and in it being true to the actual script, not in the sense that you just are just making something up. So I remember at the time there were certain things. I mean, most of them I felt like, a lot of them I felt, okay, there was a huge number or a significant amount. I thought, oh, yeah, I can answer that. I can answer that. And there were some that I thought, And there were a few that I thought, oh, damn. I thought to myself, God damn, how does anybody answer this? And I almost felt for a moment that, for a moment, for a while, that will I ever be able to answer these? And I connected with ulama that I WhatsApped, like over the course of that coming year, the following year, I would try and connect with certain reason-based scholars who in private would talk to me. And I know in public, then they don't want to be seen because obviously they get too much heat for it. But in private, they're happy. Obviously, they do like what I do and stuff. But so I message them saying, "Look, have you got any thoughts on this?" I message people internationally. And I just would ponder over these things. And there were some that I just kind of momentarily, I just had no answer for in that moment. And there was a time that some of my friends even said, "Oh, Mufti, what are some of these? Like, tell us." And I said that, look, I don't feel comfortable saying them because I haven't yet come up, like an answer hasn't dawned on me. And I don't want to just say things and then you guys are like, oh, damn, like, because some of these weren't really being challenged by atheists and ex Muslims and stuff at the time. And I was kind of glad that they weren't being challenged because I was thinking, damn, if they were, I don't have an answer to them yet. But, I can say, lillahi alhamd, every one of those things in the recent years I answered. Every single one. And not in a sense, I'm not saying this in a sense that this is me being, they just open to me. Sometimes they'd open, like I just have an open cognitive opening in the weirdest of. I'd like to say it's just, my intelligence, but it isn't because that intelligence, if I want to say it's my intelligence, then I'm sure I had that prior to that. How has my intelligence changed so much? But it's just like sometimes I would have just been just in a steam room. And suddenly it would just click. And I thought, wait a minute. But I'm really being honest. Like, there were issues that I was surprised how Muslims haven't before dealt with these issues. Like, I'll give you a really strong one at the time was this whole thing of how Allah in the Quran, how is it ethically? And all these questions were only Quran related. They weren't like Hadith related. They were just Quran related. And although there was the topic, one of them was about Bukhari and this thing, which later on I then went into as Bukhari Gate and did all of that. But most of them were Quran related questions. So, as an example, how does in the story of Moses, Allah not only allow but instruct the murder of a child? How is that ethical under any given scenario? And how, like, how is that something that people haven't questioned? And at that time, this weighed down on me so heavily because on one hand, I can't believe that that would be true, that Allah would ethically, I mean, because Allah would instruct a prophet and that to go and murder a child. That's not Allah as I know Allah or understand Allah. And that's not Islam. But on the other hand, I'm thinking, well, here's this story in the Quran, and I'm thinking, well, why haven't people even discussed this? And I'm reading all these tafsirs, and nobody's bloody discussing it. And then I do answer it, and and when it dawned on me, it just dawned on me, and I checked up the context, and it all fitted, and I've got a whole video explaining that, and it's so amazing. And I was like, how did I miss this? And it was the point that they go to sleep. But what I'm trying to mention here as an example is like this. There were several questions which now I have answered over these following, these past years. But so much of the work has been done for people who are now, you know, coming to this arena of Islam and, they want to understand it and they can build on it. I mean, I'm not saying they may be able to take those examples and build on them, improve them. So, right, let's Abu Safura, you're doing it. Oh, right. Yeah, a super chat. You're doing it. No man is an island. यार शुक्र शुक्र for your super chat. शर्मिंदा कर देते हो यार. You guys تخجلونني. That's what it is. Embarrass me. Salam Mufti. What do you think of those stories in the Quran being simultaneously true but not historical? E.g., the nature of evil being demonstrated in the contrast of Adam, Iblis, one committing a wrong and rationalizing and the other repenting. Right. Well, I have got videos on these, and these too are questions which I answered. One of the things at the time was evolution. I answered that. The story of Adam was also one on my list, which I did answer, and the fruit was a question which I admit over years I developed in my view on that. So first I thought it may have been metaphorical. Then I do actually feel I know I've got a whole clip on it explaining in line with what psychologists call the stoned ape theory, that human beings may have been kind of modern humans would have been the consciousness would have been edging forward and forward, as in they would have been having some developments, but not quite the way we are today with this kind of cognition. And Adam alayhi salam, I believe, would have been the father of of humans today with this modern cognitive explosion and having consciousness the way we do. And I feel that what may have triggered it was a psychedelic, um, whether you want to say fruit or plant or whatever it was. And in the Quran, it doesn't mention it was a fruit, by the way. It just mentions reference to a kind of bush or tree, and this is what it's being referred to. And it's unlike the Bible. There's no such thing as an apple or stuff like this. So I do feel that that's what I eventually kind of gravitated towards, that, and that triggered the entire cognitive revolution. Yeah, so Yazan al-Asbahi from Saudi Arabia. All right. Saudi, you're doing it, you're doing it. A lot. How have I impacted you? A lot actually, since the last year and a half. His views about Islam were particularly rational, logical, as opposed to the current mainstream interpretations of Islam. Above all, however, his humorous mannerisms and the positive vibes he radiates are what inspired me to be more optimistic about Islam and life in general. And what he'd like me to know is, let him know that his service to our religion is more faithful than any holier than thou clerics, who are doing more harmful disservice than anyone else. Also, I'm a huge enthusiast of his views. Maybe one day I'll write for him a poem. Do it, yeah, do it. Chill, chill. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it, honestly. It's good. And I totally echo those thoughts that, these clergy, these clerics, they are dying a death. And this is the problem. This is why they hate me so much. Because they see it's because if you think about it, what am I? Come on, let's just be real. I know it's crushing for my ego. But just real talk, what am I? Like, I'm just a person that's just doing bloody YouTube live streams cost free. There's nothing, there's nothing like, what's the big deal? Because if you think about it, all you have to do is not watch me. But what it is in me. I fear, I feel that these people see as an entity, not as an individual, but as an entity, a denominational entity. They see in me their demise. And I feel that's what frightens them. That they see that whatever their whole thing, it's dying a death. And it's that kind of the final pangs of death, that kind of, which is this kind of reaction that we then see. I really do feel that. And it's interesting, I was thinking just the other day that, why was I thinking this? Oh, right, that's it. Like how when I said, oh, I wasn't feeling so well on the weekend, and I was kind of like out of it, and I was trying to rest, and then somebody sent me a tweet by one of my haters. Dilly, hi, you dilly boy. Hi, you dildo. Dildo, give. Dildo, dildo. Small man syndrome, and this is a Napoleon complex in life. So, it's, on a side note, it's true though. People who suffer from, that kind of Napoleon complex in life, and especially if they're small in all the wrong ways, these people, they overcompensate, and you can see it. In psychology, they show you how to study the kind of the micro expressions, the macro expressions. You'll see the patternicity of behavior. You see the kind of obsession for control, for power. And anyway, right, yeah, so that's it. Yeah, so I read a tweet from Dildo Singh. You dildo. Right, so, and I just thought to myself that, I remember thinking that, wow, like, this guy is so obsessed with me. Yeah, like, and I thought, why? What? Like, I don't understand. Like, like, what's the big deal? Like, if you think about it, this guy has been obsessed with me for something like, I don't know, 6-7 years, like non-stop. And yes, I deconstructed this whole caliphate thing. And people who've obviously Hizb ut-Tahrir and stuff like that, that is their whole world. And because in English, if you think about it, there was really nobody who spoke against this whole, this caliphate obsession. Nobody, honestly. Sheikh, when I think it was 2016 or 2015, I can't remember now. 2016, I think, that I started kind of vocally condemning all this, that there's no such thing in Islam as an obligation for a caliphate system. And it really hurt people, but then fine, and so what? Mufti Abu Layth is a deviant anyway. And then I shared something about Sheikh Hamza Yusuf saying it. Now, he has something where he says it, but he doesn't really go into the topic. He just dismisses it and says it's a myth. But then people say, well, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, he's lost the plot, he's a sellout, blah, blah, blah. And they say there's an ijma', all the ulama. So wallahi, I'm not aware of this, of anybody other than me, but maybe in the English-speaking world, that is, that I brought out, see, I said, ijma'? Who do you think has disagreed with this? Malikis. So I brought out the names of these legends, these great, huge scholars like Ad-Dawoodi from 1100 years ago, these dons of the Maliki fiqh. Said there's no obligation in Islam for this. Now that destroyed the consensus claim, because up until today, Hizb ut-Tahrir and all these things have not even been aware that any scholar has openly dismissed of the past this caliphate thing, especially that classical. And I bring one, and that too I bring a Maliki. And then within the UK, there was this thing that I remember mentioning that, you see, because people are going to say, well, Mufti is a deviant anyway. So you have Sheikh Akram Nadwi, and now he's huge, and he is such a respected, kind of dignified figure and senior figure in age and respect and position in Islam within the UK and the West. And he's known by, by Arab mashayikh and other people, and his commitment to hadith. So I mentioned that Sheikh Akram Nadwi also has said this. I remember on my Facebook post, and that, oh my God, they try to shut me down. He's lying. Sheikh Akram Nadwi never say this. No, he's a deviant. People like that are traditional Islam. So I arranged a kind of, we had a seminar, a presentation. I invited Sheikh Akram Nadwi down. I obviously contacted him, phoned him, said, I want to do a seminar with you. So he said, cool. I said, I want to debunk these things: jinn possession, demonic possession, black magic. The Prophet had magic done on him, all these things. So he said, yep. He said, that's exactly me. And I said to him, Sheikh, I said, there's also another thing. I asked him beforehand. I said, Sheikh, I want to also, not that I want to put this to you there as well. Is there a caliphate in Islam? I said, would you be comfortable to answer that publicly? Because he said, no, there isn't. There's no obligation. I said, but would you be comfortable? Because I don't want to be rude and out of character and just present it to you in the seminar. Because people would feel, that maybe, it's just wrong. It's not right. And so he said, I'm comfortable to say it in public. You ask me, I'll answer it. So I made a video now. Now we've got this whole presentation of such a dignified scholar arguing and clarifying there's no obligation. So it really hurt people, really hurt them. They became obsessed. And years later, they're still going on. But, right, the reason I mentioned this was because at that time, I said, you know what? I said in my posts and comments, I said that I get the fact that people today are still saying caliphate, there's global dominion. I said, but give it just 4-5 years, I said. These younger people who are in their late teens will have, I said that obviously 5 years from today, they're going to be in the early 20s. The younger lot will be in the late teens. They will dominate and become the majority on social media. And I said that in 5 years from today, this whole discourse would have disappeared, and it will be embarrassing for you people to claim that we should rule the world, dominion. I said that you'd be embarrassed to say this even publicly. And if you go back 5 years, they were actually saying it very public. And look, today, it sounds so dumb to say it. Well, you know what? And that's why I was just thinking that when I saw that. I thought, I said that, didn't I? That give it 5 years and people will be embarrassed to even make such a claim publicly, because the Muslims have changed. The younger Muslims don't buy into this kind of nonsense. So there you go. See, I should have gambled on it. And I'm telling you, give it 5 years from today. 5 years from today, some of these very kind of Neanderthal kind of like denominations will just be absolutely fossilized. They'll either have to adapt or they'll just become fossils. And that's one of the problems, unfortunately, with a lot of the Deobandi institutions. You see, not as much the Brailvis, because the Brailvis, what they've done is in the last decade, they've kind of, in their own way, become kind of contemporary to some extent. Like they've latched onto Arab ulama, they've changed the way they look, they've kind of changed their style. They've become kind of like in their own way stylish. The whole kind of Moroccan vibe, the Syrian vibe, they've kind of like absorbed that. Whereas first, if you went back 15 years, it was just this Indo-Pak, desi, and it wasn't going to work here in the UK. But I suppose with the Sufi thing, what Brailvis kind of did, it gave it life, because they kind of like made it in a way where it's still has its kind of cool vibe to it. Obviously, they need a lot of work still, because a lot of them still haven't done that, but there's enough personalities that have done that for Islam to be still approachable for the younger people. And unfortunately, this is where a lot of the Deobandis who were advanced in building madrasas in the UK or in the Western world, because they're the first people to have built such huge institutions, but because they refused to adapt, give it 5 years from today and watch all of that. If you continue to appear as this kind of like untidy, this kind of like, Kalahari Bushmen. I mean, the Kalahari Bushmen seem... if they came across the Kalahari Bushmen would start studying them for anthropology. They'd be like, yeah, I think we need to study these people, realize the human journey. Right, Jamal from Australia. This is just people, because we're gonna obviously during Ramadan not have Monday nights. We'll have other things, but I feel that it's only right to share this love. Right, so this is Jamal from Australia, made me more rational and took me away from believing that literally everything is haram as made out to be. This is another thing that really hurts people, that why is everything not haram? It hurts people that, why does this guy make things halal? I don't make things halal. Things are halal by default. I say that making something haram is such a difficult task, but people are trigger happy on the haram button. Haram, 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 haram. And I saw this, somebody sent me this clip of I don't know who this person is, but obviously condemning me. And he said, and this is something that they all say, by the way, they say, watch this. He will always say, I think, I feel, in my opinion, in my understanding. and this is what they're attacking. They're saying, see, he is a Dajjal. I just don't get that, because that's like, I'm thinking, that's actually how it ought to be, because you ought to humble yourself that this, whatever you're teaching, is ultimately your understanding. Just be honest. Don't say this is God's understanding. This is how God wants it. Say that this is how I understand that God would want this. Just humble yourself a bit. But that arrogance is this is a, one of the key stumbling blocks that unfortunately not just Islam but many institutionalized religions have. That people refuse to kind of like humble that self, that I could be wrong. Because when I say to you, look, in my opinion, in my understanding, what I'm ultimately saying is, this is my take, this is how I see it. I could be wrong. Is there anything you want to let him know? Love you, Bhaijan. Abe, Gio. Love you too, yaar. Salim from the UK would like to give me the freedom to think with my own rationale and not just believe in something because someone with a beard told me to. Exactly. I love the fact that we can, in this day and age, we can once again take ownership of our own faith. We don't need, this is not a papacy. We don't need to go through the Pope. Information is online and nobody can stop it. So whether you want to learn or not, but it is your deen. Nobody can chuck you out of it. Nobody can scare you away. It's your deen as much as it is the next person's, and people who have an obsession to chuck people out of God's faith, those people you need to beware of. Okay. Hanif from the UK said, he made me less fear God. Now the haters are gonna love that. But I'm absolutely glad you said that. And has turned it into a religion of love and better for me and others. People who say, what he'd like to say to me is, people who say you laugh too much probably look like Pepe Sadface. Personally, love your humor and humanity. Mufti, honestly, you've personally helped me and others tremendously with our faith. If it wasn't for you, Mufti, sad emoji. May Allah forever keep you guys smiling. This whole thing of God is this figure who you are meant to be scared of. Yes, I grew up, and in my early, while studying Islam, that was the preponderating view, because that's what I was taught by everyone. But if one thing that changed gradually, but if one thing there was and is, that with its change, my whole outlook on everything changed. It was my concept of God. In understanding that God isn't this kind of benevolent tyrant or dictator, that we have totally misunderstood God if that's how we think of him. He's way too majestic for this kind of, how people portray him like this angry, like this kind of man in the sky who's like a kind of father figure, I guess, like from the Victorian ages, that this one where children, are to be seen and not heard, and where he kind of has this love for the child, but he's a strict disciplinarian and he wouldn't, you know, flinch at kind of beating the child if he had to, because that's how he shows love. And then also this figure, but they also infantilize him. So they almost at times turn him into like an infant who throws a tantrum, gets angry easily. That is, wallahi, is a distortion of Allah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Rabbul Alameen. That to me, if I was to only, if that was the only picture of God, then that for me cannot be God. I cannot accept a God like that. To me, I would not, because to me that is not God. I cannot worship something like that. That is this kind of Victorian father figure. That's just, that's his, because that cannot be God who created this cosmos. Not for me. Not for me. So, if people want to worship that, It's their life, it's their choice. But to me, Allah is Rahman Rahim. He's somebody who says, look, just ponder in the cosmos and let that sink. So, yeah. And the laughter thing is interesting, because why do people hate laughter so much? I find that very fascinating as a discussion. And I think that, people, there's a few reasons. One is that I think to some people who are sad, but as in whether they're sad visibly or not, or empty, that it kind of reminds them of what they don't have. I think there's that element definitely from a psychology perspective, but they can just embrace it. And also there's an element of, for religion, the problem with laughter for institutionalized religion is it allows you to satirize things. And you see, the moment you satirize things, you can question authority. And that's a big problem for authority within. See, because if you can, you see, if you're allowed to make a joke out of something, you will actually, common people can actually see the stupidity in it. Whereas if you're being very serious, the figure of authority can always control you quite well, because because they're speaking from a position of authority. So as long as the discourse is always serious, everything is serious, it's almost like a losing battle, and they get to sustain their authority. But the moment humor comes in, the problem with that is you can show things to be quite absurd, and common people can actually relate to seeing absurdity. So I feel that institutionalized religion has always hated humor, because it's felt that humor, it's just, this is something that if you allow it to enter the realm of religion, authority will disappear. And that's why they fabricated all these hadith as well. If you laugh so much, your heart will become saddened, and all of this. Oh my God, there's things dying down here. Let me just switch this on. Un momentico.
सूरते शम्मा पिघल जाऊंगा,
वाह,
सूरते शम्मा पिघल जाऊंगा, लेकिन तुम लोग सूरते शम्मा पिघल जाऊंगा, लेकिन तुम लोग, मैं किसी कब्र पे जल जाऊंगा, लेकिन तुम लोग, क्या रजीब है भाई, क्या कहने, मैं किसी कब्र पे जल जाऊंगा, लेकिन तुम लोग कार वाले हो, तुम्हें रास्ता मिलना मुश्किल, मैं तो पैदल भी निकल जाऊंगा, लेकिन तुम लोग। शेर देखें वासिफ साहब कि मैं मुनव्वराना साहब, मैं खरा नोट हूं, सीलन में पड़ा था कब से, मैं खरा नोट हूं, सीलन में पड़ा था कब से, मैं
Right. Oh, sorry. I'm back. I think something I must have knocked something out there, but I fixed it. I'm back. Un momentico. Espárame. I hope this is helpful as well, these kind of reflections. I feel that it's good, at times to just reflect over certain things, and obviously it's good to read your messages. So just bear with me. I will be coming to your questions as well. Right. Shaji. Oh, Shaji from Toronto, Canada. Right. He has shown me the middle path. Like many people, I was initially drawn into Salafism, but just got burnt out with all these hadith that are blasphemous to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and looked at Quranism. However, that was just the extreme opposite of hadith dogmatism. Mufti Ji has shown how we can take ahadith that are in accordance to the Quran wa Sunnah. And he'd like to say, us fans have him and his family in our prayers. I know you're going to get through this just fine. Shukran. I'm absolutely, alhamdulillah, I'm fine. I am fine. I'ma just send this picture of you. You can use it in your Discord server and WhatsApp stickers. So, all right, I'll look out for the picture, man. I'll look out for the picture. Jerry from the US says, Islam as a faith we believe is from God. We should at least use our intellect when it comes to what our religion says, because God is not dumb. Exactly, exactly. You know, if there's a moment in life where you feel that you could actually understand things, but it's it's almost like, I get it, it makes sense, we could do this, but you know, God, then at that point, that's a wake up call that, you know, you have your perception of God is, I mean, it's so low. It really needs to be examined. I want to let Mufti Saab know that he has really helped me in my journey after converting to Islam, made me laugh and answered many questions of mine. I respect him for having the guts to speak up and show that Islam is not your dad's religion, to stand up against the people who blaspheme against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I can actually relate to Mufti, and inshallah would like to meet him one day. Ahlan wa sahlan, Jerry. You're welcome, man. Fly over to the UK as soon as COVID is over. Don't worry about it, man. We'll accommodate you. So I can actually relate to him. I have a lot to ask him, but it's not letting me submit super chats on the live streams for some reason. Reach out to me on Insta, inshallah. Mustafa has said, in the words of Immanuel Kant, you have awoken me from my dogmatic slumber. Wah, 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 wah. Most of us are young, so we can feel the pain caused by not being in a position to join your fight. The feeling of impotence and inadequacy to just sit here and watch injustice is truly depressing. I'll make sure to shout you out at my Nobel Prize in Physics acceptance speech, inshallah. Wah, wah. Inshallah. May Allah, grant you that. Ameen. Ameen. Please make dua for me. May Allah make things easy for you. Hope to see you within the next decade. Yeah, man, come down, inshallah. It's all good. And it's good that people are in such diverse fields. You know, Muslims that are physicists and astrophysicists and, quantum physics specialists, and Muslims that are they're just so diverse in thought and so talented. I really love that. Frasi from Sweden, logical reasoning and using it to arrive at answers, also to widen one's view to different interpretations and arguments. Never forget what you each day accomplish. Wow. Mariam, see, I recognize that. Mariam from Australia, you're doing it. He helps me to think twice on matters of the deen. All right, you're doing it. Keep doing what you love, and know somebody out there like me appreciates you for sharing your knowledge and advice. Now, this is an interesting one, people. This is Dajjal with a big D. That's the name. Obviously, Dajjal with a big D has said the way he looked at important topics and how he stood up to talk against the growing Salafiyah group. Message, haters gonna hate. When people start hating, it means you're starting to influence people. I definitely agree, man. And, it's not about, by the way, it's not about speaking against a denomination per se. It's more about the cult-like mentality. You see, if a person wants to be a Salafi, I have no problem. I have no qualms. I'm not going to, just for being a Salafi, criticize someone. But it's that dogmatic cultism that is the problem. And whatever group a person belongs to, if they have that, that is the problem. See, that is suffocating religion. And if they haven't realized, religion's already in a kind of coma state. So thank you for making me motivated to become better and improve myself, also teaching me more about Islam. Have I knocked this thing out again? Un momentico, people. Un momentico. I was trying to see actually if there was a clip. There wasn't. Un momentico. All right. I do apologize. Right, I do apologize. You know what it is, people? Because I was kind of knocked out today, and I normally I have all this stuff prepared, so I don't know what's going on with the equipment. Right, okay, people. I tell you what, let's deal with some of your questions. And I just want to say, shukran for that message. It really is always great to hear from you guys, honestly. I know that with this last month, there's, with all the kind of distractions and stuff, there's a lot of you that I hadn't still got back to, especially on the Discord thing. And so I'd been in and out and not so, just being distracted. But I was hoping, inshallah, during Ramadan to really use that time to kind of inshallah, let's jump in, let's kind of catch up, let's do a lot of stuff, because there won't be Monday nights during Ramadan. I will still be doing mind traps and sharing other things, so that's all good. Right, Sakhir, shukran, much love. This whole thing is going mad, right? So I've got no idea what's going on over there. My other account by YouTube has been deleted. Right. Let me just un momentico for defending you from. Thank you, Queen Inaya. Rosalina, thank you, sweetie. Wishing you a blessed month of Ramadan. Absolutely, people. Absolutely. That's to all of you. Why is Ramadan in different seasons? That's a very good question, very good question. So I feel that, look, I have got a video clip on this, by the way, that I feel that, let's make sure this is, you see, Ramadan in essence is, it was static. It wasn't kind of in flow the way it is now. The Islamic calendar, in essence, was a static calendar. That's what I definitely, I do feel. I've got a whole video explaining that if you look up the word nasi. And see, the Islamic calendar, in essence, was it was a kind of lunar solar calendar. Nowadays, it's just strictly a lunar calendar. That was not what it was back then, in the Prophet's time. So, in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's time, uh, so the lunar calendar was the same, but it was superimposed on a solar calendar. And they used to do this by the kind of the scribes, who were mainly Jewish, because they really led in all these things. So they had the way we have today a leap year to make corrections every 4 years. But they had, and they still have it, a system where it corrects itself, but every 17 years, I believe it was. So they would add a month called Nasi. Now, the Nasi, but when you add the Nasi, you can't just add it like every other year. They had numbers on when they would add it. So they would add it like, I think it was first on the third year, then on like it'd be 3 years, but then they would change the 3 into 2 at some point. It'd be 3, 3, 2, 3, 2, 2, something like that. But once they hit 17, it would be perfectly realigned. And what that would do is that would allow everything to remain perfectly static. Now, in early Islam, that was still happening. They were realigning it. But what happens is, I feel that maybe during the time of Umar radiallahu an, because of so much expansion with Islam and the kind of the state, the empire starts to massively kind of expand. It brings in the northern kingdoms. It starts to make ways into further west as well. Now, during that time, this Nasi kind of administration wasn't being done. And I feel that it's not that you see, because it wasn't really a priority. It wasn't something that people were really thinking about, because it wasn't something Islamic. It was just something people did. But now that the world has become so large and all these things are going on, these military expeditions and this and that and this and that, that they just weren't that mindful of it. And then after them, the people who come after them, they also get slightly confused because there's a verse in the Quran called إِنَّمَا النَّسِيءُ زِيَادَةٌ فِي الْكُفَرِ. Now, which is also talking about that month, but it's talking about how people use it to cause mischief and mayhem. But here people assume that, you know what, maybe that was something wrong. And the fact that the calendar had been in free flow for a while, they just let it go. So what started to happen is the months started to rotate around the entire year. So yeah, and Ramadan starts to be, it is what it is. It'll go around the entire year. But I don't think that was in the time of the Prophet like that. Ramadan Kareem, Mufti. MashaAllah, shukran, Ramadan Kareem. Likewise, lana wa alaykum, insha'Allah. Can you publish a paper on why the hadith? Oh, right, that question, I've already seen that one. Right, I'm just trying to see what questions I've missed. Sheikh, limitations of Najdi Da'wah in light of Quran. Right, happy Ramadan, Mufti Saab. Likewise, happy Ramadan. Right, so limitations of Najdi Da'wah. The Najdi Da'wah is just a cultish, it's a cultish Puritanism. That's all it is. But it has recently, been reinvigorated by petrodollars. That's all. So let's say Saudi Arabia did not discover oil the way it did, the Salafi Da'wah would probably have just died a death. But with the petrodollars, it became obviously it flourished. I mean, it doesn't flourish in numbers. So the majority of the Muslim, the outright Salafiyah are probably what? If I'm to be honest, 3% of the entire Muslims, maybe. Is that a stretch? I wouldn't even think that they constitute 3%. I think that's a big... I actually believe I'm being generous when I say that 3% even. But the issue is the Salafi thought in some fields has a huge influence just because of the internet. So people who are not really Salafi, don't like Salafis even, when they Google questions, the Salafi Da'wah dominates the Islamic internet. So in Arabic, I think Salafi Da'wah dominates probably, I don't know, maybe believe it or not, maybe 85 to 90% of everything in Arabic about Islam is probably going to be from Salafi sources. And that's not because they are so many, it's just because everybody else has not been doing anything. And they're so so maybe a lot of ulama have written books, but how does that make it on Google? And how they need, and you might say, well, they've got a little blog somewhere, but that blog won't be picked up by Google. They need these Q&A channels, they need these Q&A websites, they need to put a bit of money into it to make sure it kind of ranks just the way the Saudi scholars have done it. But they've been doing it from the 2000s, so they're ahead of the game. And what happens is a lot of people just cut and paste what they say, and they're not Salafi, so they may just be regular Arabs who, just say, "Oh, let me look this up." So they just see it and it says Q&A, and they just get the answer and paste it on their chat, and now that comes up, even though this chat forum is a secular almost chat forum, but it will still carry Salafi answers. In English or other languages online, they probably dominate about 50% of the discourse. So it's massively disproportionate. So, yeah. But in the real world, there are very few people, very few tiny masjids and tiny, but but their influence spreads surreptitiously. So it's like they may influence people because people may go online, they're not Salafi themselves. They may not even like Salafis, but that's the only answer they find. So they start to believe. And like this, there's a gradual, but it's not necessarily so dangerous, but it's just a gradual influence. Well, who's this? Talha, you naughty. You teasing me? Who's this? Were deleted by cha. Mufti. Sita and Gita. You see, look, listen, as I've said before, people who need to talk about me just to get views, right? These kind of people who, if they happen to also be extremist, hate preachers at the same time, then with these people, all you do is just mock and block. Because then they become obsessed. And to be fair, also there's an understanding that, look, it's very clear that nobody will watch them unless they talk about me. So there's the drive as well for them is just to get viewers. So that's one thing. The other thing is that, when people are that hateful, that kind of vile and cancerous, and you just mock them and block them, and then they are hooked on you. They will not be able to get you out of their head. I mean, they will just, and in that is their kind of consequence, because I'm telling you, forget any of these people. Years from today, they will still be kind of like just burning with hatred about me. And it's similar in a weird way. You see, it's a bit like X, like the kind of like hateful X syndrome, except for the love of God, I don't know why these guys develop it with me, but it becomes that because what happens is, you see, these people become obsessed by the fact that, okay, one, clearly, maybe not in all X syndrome cases, but here you clearly mock them for who they are, and then you block them, and they crave attention, and they need that, and the fact that you don't give it to them, then they will monitor your every move. They will watch you, so religiously, and they will. They'll become obsessed that you will consume their soul. So, and I say, I don't know, it's like you could call it a curse I have, that, whether it's a blessing or a curse, that first of all, people either just love me or they hate me. And the haters especially, they get hooked on me, honestly. They probably contribute so many of my viewership is because they have to religiously, they are so, they can't help it. They are addicted to me. Oh my God. It's so amusing to watch at times. But it is what it is, and I say this openly, that they shouldn't take this addiction lightly. I mean, I don't mind; it helps my viewerships, but this is going to burn them for years. They will not be able to get over me. I mean, look at the example I gave earlier on. Fools will be hooked on me for it's 7 years, 6 years, 5, and I don't even, I've never met these people. I don't engage with them. I don't, there's nothing there, but still they will be. So Yeah, I kind of take it as a compliment. I take it as a compliment, but I do feel that, whoa, this, what is this, man? Like, I have this power to get to people get so hooked on me that they can't get off it. And it's worse when they're haters, because it's like I'm like heroin to them. Honestly, that's actually what I'm like to them, because the way heroin destroys someone, then I just seem to passively, just because they become so consumed with me and so much hatred, it just consumes them. Don't worry about it, man. Just live life. Chill, man. Don't worry about it, man. And I have to say as well, with maybe not with all, but with with several amount of them, there's there's an element of jealousy which then contributes to that kind of ruin, because to a lot of these people as well, they crave that, because they want a following, they want a they want people to like them as well, they want people to just hear them, and they want this as well. And some of them, I think, look, if you weren't such a hateful person, you should just told me, yeah. I'll bring you on one of my shows. But this is it. This is it. Let's move on, people. All right. What's going on? Right, I gotta just refresh. Oh, right, here it is. Yeah. Early Muslims had less knowledge, empirical and scientific knowledge, and thus have less accuracy in their interpretations and truth. So we must reinterpret and reform according to empiricism. I'm not so the way I wouldn't really say that. What I would say, somebody saying, I'm a big fan of Mufti, but I'm disappointed. I live to disappoint. Yeah, that's my style. As far as the Jesus debate thing is concerned, yes, all of those questions, most of them have already been answered in my address to Sheikh Yasser Qadi. There's probably you've got about 5 hours of watching there. So you'll actually find most of the questions answered, and there's a few things still left in the Sheikh Yasser Qadi thing, which I haven't yet got to, which I will be doing. So this topic of Jesus, that's pretty much all answered, and there is some still, because when I began my disclosure with the big D, I listed many things. I haven't done them all yet, but inshallah, those I'll do as well, because I do want that to be a whole series. But that is addressing, obviously, the video that Sheikh Yasser Qadi made. Because you see, look, there's people out there like Sheikh Yasser Qadi, other people as well, who, I think have done some disappointing work, unfortunately, at times. But to be fair, they do have content. They are who they are for themselves. And they're not hate preachers. They're not people who, um, whether they have certain things within them or not, but they don't generally, for the most part, go around just being subsumed by calling people kafir, 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 kafir. People like that, those people you just mock and block. That's it. You don't dignify those people, because they crave, and then they die for your attention. People like that are extinct. Like I said, you give movements like that 5 years, they won't even really exist. But Sheikh Yasser Qadi obviously is a man of, he does have substance. He does have his own views. Obviously, I feel that he's kind of really struggling to be honest with what he truly has within, and at the same time maintain his following. So he's kind of going about it in a very, you know, difficult way. Obviously, if I was in his, I've got a whole video explaining that, my thoughts on Sheikh Yasser Qadi's journey. If I was him, I would just come out straight as I am. I would just say, look, listen, this is me. These are my views, and people may leave me, but others will then come to me based on honesty and transparency. And I think that's still his biggest struggle. Sheikh Yasser Qadhi's. This Farid guy made a whole trailer about you, and when I search your name on Twitter, it's just this guy complaining about you. He must secretly be in love with you. Riz, you've hit it on the head. You know, the truth is that these people are obsessed with me. Honestly, they are really, and this is where I say that, you know, to my haters, unfortunately, I'm like heroin, because and I say this in the nicest of possible ways, that, you know, by all means, you know, dine, be my guest, but it will consume your life. And the more you watch me, the more it will be debilitating for you, because, you know, unfortunately, I think, I don't know whether that's a curse or what, but it is like that. You know, I find it like that, and it won't go away, not for years, for years, for years. They will just burn and burn. And you see, the funny thing is, there's these delusions of grandeur, because, you know, this cancel culture, like, people think, oh, let's cancel Mufti Abu Layth. It's like I said last time, you know, if I sneeze, Baba Farid Ganguteli will make a kind of video, or make a tweet saying, I'm going to end Mufti Abu Layth's career. But you see, these are delusions of grandeur. They don't wield any such influence. Like, I mean, how do you even think? Like, I don't get what they think. You know, their worldview. They must think, I don't know. Like, how does anybody cancel someone? You know, this attempt, let's cancel him. That's just so delusional. It's like, well, okay. Well, first of all, how do you cancel me? I'm an independent person. Yeah. Okay. So, okay. Secondly, my following, or people who watch me, are not your audience. So, you know, I don't preach to the converted. I don't preach to the dogmatists who follow them. So your followers canceling me, it makes zero difference to me, because I kind of spread my message to the common Muslim, that silent 80% of people who are just regular Muslims. And they don't follow people like, you know, these kind of Wahhabis and stuff. They don't follow them. They can't relate to these kind of people. These people come across, just looking at these people, you know, like, I mean, it's just so embarrassing. Okay, some are, you know, slightly more tolerable than others, but some are just like, come on, if you had to bring someone like that as a representative of your faith, you'd be embarrassed to death. So, yeah, I mean, I don't understand how people feel that the fact that they actually think they can cancel someone, it's so delusional. And the fact that my message is actually spreading even more, it yeah. You know, my message to you all, seriously, is, if I can tell you that, you know, these are certain this is one thing you must do in life, honestly, it would be that I would say that try to have lived your life. So, you know, so once you've reached the end, you have lived your life in a way that, as to the best of your capacity, you have tried to not be, like, as far as you can control, that you have avoided being two things: one hurtful and one hateful. I think, you know, if you have managed to live a life not being, or attempting, or trying at least not to be these two things, that you have lived a successful life in this dunya. That, honestly, as far as being a human being is concerned, that is your Islam validated. Wallahi. As long, you know, you have lived to the best of your capacity to not be hurtful and not be hateful. These things are important, and that does not mean, by the way, not to dislike things. Disliking things are fine. You dislike something, I dislike it. There's a lot of these people, I dislike them because of what they do, because of their stuff. I honestly don't hate them. This is the shocking thing. I think this baffles them. On a personal level, I do not hate them at all. Yeah, I mean, I don't like them because of what they do, but I don't have because it taxes the soul to hate someone. It's actually quite a demanding task. So yeah, so people like Ganguteli, that is so, and all of these guys that they become hateful, and so it weighs in on their soul, and it kind of consumes and eats away. So and faith should not do that to you. If you say, I have Allah in my life, I have Islam in my life, then you should not be a hateful person, truly speaking. I have, somebody said, invite them onto Mind Trap. I have invited them onto Mind Trap. I've invited Sheikh Yasser Qadi onto Mind Trap. I've invited Baba Farid onto Mind Trap. I've said I'd love to have a discussion on Bukhari Gate with him. I've invited most my haters, Danny Y. I've invited him onto Mind Trap. I invite almost anyone that initially put something out about me and I respond to them. I will always do so by offering a dialogue, saying, look, come, and I make it very clear that I will be respectful. Yeah, I mean, if they are just like extremist hate preachers, kafir, 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 that's not dialogical. That's not the kind of person that has any just any dignity left in them. So I'm not interested in inviting, I don't know, an ISIS extremist on Mind Trap, for example. I'm not interested in just having a hateful person sit there and just go, what, you kafir, 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 kafir. I'm not interested in those people. I'm interested in people who still have an intellect. Like people like Sheikh Yasser Qadi is obviously very intelligent. People like even Danny Boy are actually very intelligent. I've said this publicly so many times. I've said that, but I'm shocked how they are so dogmatist. People, even Farid Ganguteli is, he's obviously intelligent. He's not, it's just the Wahhabi thing has consumed them. But I'm more than happy for these people to come on Mind Trap. I extend that. I always extend invites. I've even said that, about somebody to come defend the Salafi Aqidah, an Imam. So my invites are always there. And I think that hurts people even more that I have Mind Trap. Because before, people would like to say that, oh, Mufti just runs away from things. I've never run away from anything. And now that I have a show, I just straight away say, hey, come on my show. And then they say, we don't talk to deviants, we don't talk to deviants. Yeah. No, when I'm saying these people, look, clearly these people are, they're not, when I say these people have intellect, they clearly do. I mean, there's no, they have talent, but they've obviously joined a cult. So what that does is it puts blinkers on you. But you can see that they're not, they're not stupid people, but they've just wanna, they have to follow the cult. Once the Salafis are gone, what would Mufti do with his life? Shukran for the super chat. You see, I don't feel dogmatism will go. I don't feel it will. Unfortunately, because religion with a capital R, and institutionalized religion, has dogmatism in its very bones, okay, to survive. And it's done a hell of a good job surviving. The problem has been that the voice of reason has been entirely absent almost, or drowned. And recently it's starting to come back to life. So I don't feel dogmatism will die. But I feel, and that's not what I'm trying to do, because I think that may never happen. That's not my fight. My fight is to ensure that the voice of reason too is also alive. So people can choose. That's all. Yeah. Yes, Mufti, you look drained. Yeah, I told you that these past from the weekend, I wasn't feeling too well, and I'd kind of just been trying to rest it out. And today I did have some life back in me, so I went to the gym, but my whole schedule was on its head, and so yeah, I was a bit rinsed, and and then I was kind of dazed. So yep, well spotted, well spotted. Elias are from but I don't know what this says. Right. Okay. So right. So Dr. Abdul Majid did do a good job at refuting my points. There you go. There's a clear hater. Look, I actually have love for Dr. Abdul Majid. I actually do. I have respect for him in my heart, and I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I don't think, in my perspective, that Dr. Abdul Majid successfully tackled the points of Bukhari Gate. But I am glad he at least came to the discourse and, said his piece. I'm really glad he did that. And if some of you watch that and you feel that, oh, we hated Mufti Abu Layth's whole Bukhari Gate, and now that, somebody has tackled him and you find solace in his answers, fine. I mean, to be honest, his answers were just generally saying that if I was to sum up his answers, I do have a video summing it up. But to sum it up, his answers were, in essence, I would feel you could summarize them to saying, well, I am okay with Sahih Bukhari because other scholars have been okay with it. So, I accept that you have these views, but because other scholars have been okay with it, I'm okay with it. And I'm okay with you having this view, but I think that kind of just summed up the entire, if you were to you had to put hours into one sentence, it would just be that. Because otherwise, when I began, I mentioned that I will be approaching this from I quoted the poet Poe, and I said, like, from a phenomenological perspective, an ontological perspective, and an epistemological perspective. And I break those down into what they are, and I begin the discussion by saying, will you first of all tell me, is your take that Bukhari is qat'i, or is it dhanni? And the moment you begin, just that question kills the debate. But obviously, the problem is a lot of people who watch this aren't familiar maybe with technical terms, so they don't fully appreciate what's just happened. Because once you say it's qat'i, it's conclusive, as the Quran, right, you have kind of lost already. And if you say it's dhanni, as hadith actually are, which means that, it has, obviously, we can't say it's as conclusive as the Quran, it's not been transmitted like that, then you admit by default that there is a margin of doubt in this. Even if you say it's doubt which I'm happy to ignore, but it's still doubt. And then you go into the actual discussion. So my discussion on the transmission of Bukhari wasn't tackled at all. I don't, in that discussion, when you watch it, I don't even think in that part there was any, it was just me explaining, and I think we just moved on then. There was no, because what can you say? I'm actually breaking down how it was transmitted and the differences. What can you say to that? What can you say? No, it wasn't. Because I actually say, if you disagree with these version of historical events, provide yours, I'll listen to it. But you and everybody who studied Bukhari and its historicity knows this, because this is the history of it. And that key point, that how can such a big thing rest on the shoulder of one man Furabri, who is unvouched for, is a huge, huge, huge problem for really, this for Sunni dogmatists. It's a huge problem which they've choose to ignore. And if this was any other religion, they would have crushed this point. That how can you rest your entire thing on the back of one man? If this was Christianity, they would have gone to town on this point. But obviously, because of it being biased for them, they just ignore it. But that's such a huge claim. And then when we went into the actual, the ontological nature of it and looked at the topics within Bukhari and the blasphemy and the disrespect to prophets and God and all of this stuff, and even factual errors, like my discussion with the mistake in the hadith of Isra wal Mi'raj, that even all the scholars themselves say this is a mistake. I'm really grateful to Dr. Abdul Majid for having that discussion with me, because one, it allowed me to have that discussion with an imam, because no imam till date has had the courage to accept my discussion on it, to even accept a dialogue. People they're just too intimidated. Wallahi, they are way too intimidated because they know they don't have the research, and they know that they won't be able to provide any answers, so they're too embarrassed. But I'm really grateful he did that, and we actually walked away having more respect for each other. That's how I feel. I walked away having, much more respect for him. So yeah. Right. Back to the companions. At best, we have nothing that goes by outside one of the narration. It's all companions. I'm not sure what that means, John. But yeah, sure. What do I think of Dr. Adnan Ibrahim? I think Dr. Adnan Ibrahim is amazing. He's somebody. He obviously is a proponent for the voice of reason in the Arabic speaking world today, and I love that. And he's in Europe, and may Allah bless him and preserve him, because he's somebody. I'm sure a lot of his message is just very similar to my message. I'm sure. I don't watch him religiously. Unfortunately, I need to, but I don't. But now and then a clip may come up on YouTube and I may watch it. And it's usually just very similar to the stuff I say. So he's probably like I don't know, an Arabic speaking, more much, more serious Arabic speaking version of me. Because he's always doing it in the masjid, and he's also very I don't know how to describe it really, because he's very serious, and he's always about taqwa and iman, and he's like what a real imam ought to be like. A real imam in Islam ought to be like that. He reminds you to be God conscious. He reminds you to do things, and he's very serious at the same time, and he's very presentable, very knowledgeable. So I definitely do love him. Right, Mufti Abu Layth, my dua, bless you and your family wherever you are, yaar. Soran, Gio, much love to you as well. May Allah bless you and forever keep you smiling. Funny, child marriage is still legal in a lot of Western countries, including secular France. They base puberty and parent permission being necessary. Right. Not exactly. I think what you're saying is it's twisting facts. Okay, I strongly feel you're twisting facts, or you've misunderstood them. And I've got a whole explanation of this, stating that, you see, there is a difference between the age of consent for sexual intercourse between countries, but there's like a reasonably stable margin. Okay. Now, some people may have it slightly 1 year ahead, 1 year below. So usually in a lot of these countries, it's like 16. And some countries may have it 1 year below. They may have it 15. Some countries may have it. I mean, usually I don't think they go over 16. Some countries in some parts of the world do. They go to 18. Some countries actually have it as 21, I think, but which is, but still. And then they have something called like in the UK, it's called a Romeo and Juliet clause, which is that sexual intercourse, if it did happen under that age, so if it was under, let's say, so in the UK it being 16, but if it happened when somebody was 15 or 13, but the people involved, if they are of a similar age and they were in a relationship, so let's say at secondary school, a boy and a girl are boyfriend and girlfriend, and then along the way they engage in a sexual relationship, then they feel that they don't necessarily consent to it, as in legal, as in the law doesn't necessarily state that this is fine, but what it states is that it's not in the public interest to prosecute these children. So and I believe they put that under the Romeo Juliet clause, and there's a similar thing in most of European countries. So it's not the same as saying here's you get a grown man and you get a child. It's not like that, okay? So just to be clear on those things. So, and I've mentioned before that it's a shame that imams are so shaky on this matter. There needs to be a strong, unified voice in condemning it. And nobody says these ridiculous things like 9-year-olds and stuff like that. That is just sick. Okay. All right. So, right. There you go. So, all right, what's going on? Let me follow up on some of these comments. Ramadan Kareem, Mufti, everyone, blessings are upon us. Shukran, shukran, shukran. Right, so what's going? Slavery was not wrong by nature. You're just lying, bro. All right, I lied. Tika, get a life. People like that. You see, this is the problem with people, isn't it? That if they feel that slavery, there's nothing wrong with it. I feel sorry for these people, wallahi. I pity them. I pity them. Now, right, okay. Cool. Let me take a look at some of the Facebook questions because I've been so just. Right, all right. He put his version up. What's this? 6 hours. Oh, I don't know what the 6 hours are about. For one thing, useful to display the problematic mindset and the reasoning of the dogmatists. Shukran, much appreciated, Ayub. All right, I was just taking a look there. Right, I don't know. You ignored us. My dearest apologies. You have to kind of, you have to bear with me today. I've not been 100% here. So, what is going on? Go on then, Facebook people, post your questions. Let me see. Post your questions, people. Claire, you're doing it. Much love. Right, I tell you what, Facebook people, post your question. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to push this cable and just un momentico. I'm back. I don't know, this is what happens when you decide to take a nap. To be fair, it's only because I was a bit still dazed. Right, people, Facebook people, let's take a look at some of your questions, man. What's going on? What's going on? What's preoccupying your precious thoughts? Right, so Fushi, this is a shout out going out to Fushi. You're doing it, Fushi. You're doing it. Much love, much love. Right, I gotta say, Fushi, seriously, see, this is the love and support you guys give. It means a lot. It does, honestly. Some of you guys are just too awesome, honestly. Right, Talib, assalamu alaikum, dear Sheikh. I've been following your talk and streams on Mindtrap. Will you be able to invite brother Shabir Yusuf on your Mindtrap? You won't be disappointed. Okay, I don't know who he is, but if you can ask him, right? So people I invite are usually people who are interesting and interested. So you can ask him and you can get in touch with me. And sure, I'm not sure who that is, by the way. All right, Fushi says, you got it, yeah. You're doing it, Fushi, you're doing it, honestly, you're doing it. See, this is where this is the kind of hope that beams out of Europe, people. All right, so let me now check some other questions. Fahad, you rock our world. You're doing it, Fahad. You're doing it, honestly. Right. Tawsif. All right. At what point does one's rationale take precedence in light of paradigm shifts in knowledge over textual proof? That's actually a very good question. Right. So that's actually I like that question. I have tackled it before, but I think it's incredibly important. Right now, right. So the thing is that people who are just trolling, you can mock and block people, mock and block. Right. So, faith is built on reason. It must always be based on reason. Now, people do highlight that, you see, there is a point where reason, like, there must be a starting point, unquestionably. So, because you can't base reason on reason. And I get that. But that does not mean you base things now on a lack of reason. That's just dumb. I get it's a valid point. If somebody, it's a valid point, and I've made this point before that, look, it is true that there comes a point where you have to just accept. Like, if you incredibly reduce everything, then how does one justify reason? You can't justify it by itself, so that is true. So you just accept reason. Why do you accept reason? Because it is the only thing we have in this world to go by between people. For anything in this world, that we reason. So once you accept the building block, then everything after that ought to make sense, or at least you try to make sense of it. To say, well, look, I want texts or scripture to come first, it's an amazing statement. I value the statement because but what it is, it's a misunderstanding. Like, you're confused. Okay, you're very confused as a person, but I appreciate the love that you're trying to give to the textual sources, but it's just your statement is nonsensical. I get it. You're trying to show love, but so for that, that's nice. but it's actually a dumb statement, because you can't understand anything without the brain. Do you understand? You can't, like, so to say that, oh, I want to, like, so, like, you want to take a particular, not just a book, but actual scripture. You want to take scripture, but scripture has to be read. For it to be read, it has to make sense semantically. For it to make sense, it has to rely on a vocab. For it to rely on a vocab, it has to rely on context. For it to rely on context, there is applied linguistics taking place. Applied linguistics, naturally, it takes place through the Sapir-Whorfian hypothesis, as demonstrated within psychology. But because these people are too dumb to understand this kind of stuff, they think that they somehow have unadulterated, non-human, God understanding of texts. And that's just delusional. All perception and sensation is based on the human interpreting it. It's based on interpretation. So whether you like it or not, you are already interpreting something. So you are already applying your aql and your intellect without even knowing that you're applying it. So this is the problem. So this is why this question, as romantically put as, it's nice that you're trying to say, look, I love scripture above me, which is nice. But to say, so basically what you're saying is, I choose that, but remove me and my brain out of the picture. But then what is that? Like, what does that mean? Because scripture is meaning, and meaning requires a mind to understand the meaning. So let's say we all read one verse, we're going to understand it differently. We may understand it differently. So whose meaning do we go by? And then you say, well, we'll go by what the books have put down. But then you forgot, because you haven't bloody studied any psychology in your life, you've forgotten the concept of discourse analysis. You've forgotten how people even subconsciously manipulate features, how power dynamics play a huge role, the concept of agency, the concept of interpretative repertoires. I mean, you don't even understand these things. So to explain them to you would take, I'd have to put you through a course of psychology. So the problem with this discussion is, it's like a layman arguing with a doctor, a medical doctor, about something medicinal, and just because he doesn't understand it, it's like he's saying, yeah, but these pills look just like those pills, so why are they different? Why would this make a difference to me? But he doesn't have a background in medicine, doesn't have a background in chemistry, doesn't have a background in science. It's difficult to explain to these people these things, because they're coming at it from such a, uneducated perspective, that, oh, I like scripture, and that's a nice sentiment. I like that. But the fact that you've even said that shows to me how, okay, that this is way above your grade of even comprehension. You're not going to even grasp it, let alone, like, you can't, that just shows to me you haven't even understood the true question. This is why Ibn Taymiyyah, and these people are a product of people like Ibn Taymiyyah. You see, it really begins in those centuries. This hadith dogmatism really gets shaped in those kind of centuries of Islam, the 7th century, 8th century onwards. You start to get the likes of Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, Ibn Salah before him. You're going to get Ibn Taymiyyah, Dhahabi, and all these people. It is this mindset that starts to kind of germinate, and it then, for a while, I mean, it spreads. For a while, it kind of dies a little death. Then with colonialism, it ironically comes back, because with colonialism, and this once again, because people haven't bloody studied any psychology. I wish they would. You'd understand how the human psyche works. That once a person is, once religion is attacked so harshly, people tend to turn fundamental. They don't become rational. So if you start hammering, criticizing somebody's religion, but then also add an equation of instability and fear. So you see, like colonialism, obviously they tipped the entire scale, and people's lives were jeopardized and people were tortured, and at the same time religion was attacked. People will just dig deeper into becoming fundamentalists. They will not become rationalists. That's not how the human brain works. Even standard, very mild studies have shown, like even studies in America, several social studies have demonstrated that during times of instability, more people become conservative, and they will vote for Republicans and things like this because they feel a social unease. They feel an instability. And it's during times of social stability that people become more liberal. The social studies have demonstrated this. Let alone when you take it to an nth degree and add violence and all these kind of things and attacking religion, people become fundamentalists. This is why at the beginning of the 20th century, religions worldwide became fanatics. Not just Islam, even Christianity, because they faced this threat. Incognito, much love for the super chat. Much love. Right, yeah, DMX has gone. You know, I saw that. There was a clip. I did actually think I wouldn't mind sharing it, but I don't have it here. But you see, I feel it's actually the reason I actually thought about his clip was because he says some lines in it. I don't know if I have it on this phone here, actually. If I do, I can. I don't listen to much of this. I'm not up to date with all the rap kind of thing, but I feel that first of all, when any person who has made an impact on the lives of people has died, it's as kind of like a solemn reminder, isn't it? It's how the Prophet ﷺ, when he stood up, when they carried that Jewish lady, and people were surprised, and they said that, Ya Rasulullah, this is you, and that's that's she's not a Muslim, and he said, but it's a soul. And this is how because it impacts people, isn't it? And it's humanity. So I do feel that there is that kind of thing. And he's clearly touched the lives of many people. He clearly did. And so there was a clip. It's just like, I think two lines, just a couple of seconds, really. I'll see if I can get it up here. It might help, actually. And I thought what was being said was quite.
Take it for what it's worth. My birth was a blessing. Sent to live and die on earth as a lesson. We each have a star. All we have to do.
I don't know. Oh, right. I'll see if I can bring the actual clip up. Let's see. Un momentico, people.
It's not just the stuff that he's saying.
It's
the
not
idiots.
just the
They're
stuff that he's
donating.
saying.
They're subscribing. That are sharing his stuff.
That's my beloved Gangut Daily.
You'd pay
hating on the
money
fact
to
that
someone
people
who says crap like that. What the
somebody
hell
who
is
says
wrong with
crap
you?
like that.
Maybe.
Look at this. Check
Take it
this
for
out.
what it's worth. My birth was a blessing.
I saw this and I thought that, you know what, this is really interesting in the sense. Let's see.
Take it for
All the lyrics.
My birth was a blessing. Sent to live and die on earth as a lesson. We each have a star. All we have to do is find it. Once you do, everyone who sees it will be blinded.
Wow, I thought that was very powerful. And, may Allah make easy his afterlife. I mean, for anyone who dies, something, don't have this reluctance to think, well, no, you can't. Why should I say a dua for someone who was not a Muslim? Or, somebody that, however they were, like if they lived a life that influenced, that touched positively the lives of many people, whether they did other things or whatever, they weren't Muslim, but, ultimately everybody is God's creature, and Allah, we do not have monopoly of God. We do not have monopoly of the afterlife or salvation. And we just think that so long, for so long, we think we somehow are the lucky, God's chosen people. Why? What have you actually done? Just been born in in a particular family. What makes you think that, and the fact that you are so narrow-minded, goes to show to me, speaks volumes to me that surely you cannot be, echoing the voice of God. Yeah. Right. So, yeah, music is fine. I've got a video based on that. Music is not haram. Somebody said, Ahmed said DMX is amazing in our time. I just heard, like, of course, I have in the past, obviously I've come across certain things, but I'm not so into that scene, but I know he has a huge presence. And I saw this clip and I just thought, wow, these words, wallahi, they're just so hard hitting that, yeah, take a look again, yar. Let the haters burn. Just look at the lyrics. Like recognizing yourself.
On earth as a lesson, we each have a star. All we have to do is find it. Once you do, everyone who sees it will be blinded.
See, like that lesson that we each have a star. All we have to do is find it. Wow, that is so. I find in that clear echoes found within the message of Islam, that a person has to strive, that there is something written there for you, but just don't give up on finding it, and when you do find it, you will shine in it. And I thought that was so powerful. Yeah. So somebody said music is haram. Well, you must live a miserable life then. Right, but right. So okay, I don't know. People commenting about somebody hip hop. Right. So what is going on, people? What is going on? Mufti, are the spiritual centers, lata'if in our bodies, real? Some people use them to make their souls travel into the spiritual world through dhikr. What are your thoughts? Much love. Right. The lata'if, something that some Sufi turuq speak about, which in some ways are similar to the kind of chakra points in other like Hindu meditative practices also. I think these are things through kind of just like trial and error that people have developed, and maybe it worked for them to have that, they felt that certain energies can be kind of brought in, the way you'll have chi, and I'm I don't know, maybe some of these things, if you dedicate yourself to developing them, that they work. I definitely do feel that the human being beyond the body at the level of consciousness, that is a whole nother level of complication that that, that we have not even we haven't even reached, let alone understand. We haven't even got to that stage yet. And I do wonder, how does consciousness, and to me consciousness isn't just consciousness is the ruh to me. How does that even work? And I wonder from that world how the world looks. You understand? It's a bit like, I wonder how, and I don't know, and I think that from that perspective, yes, meditation may definitely work. Um Definitely may. And there may be certain, like, breathing, because obviously the way you breathe and regulate your body, you can impact the way the kind of brain, the brain activity. Now, I'm not saying the brain is the ruh, is consciousness, but the brain is definitely what connects us to consciousness. So, it does have certain modalities, but I don't know. I don't know. Another way is you could just you could take a special something and go on a journey, but that is only for those of the path. People say that might be the soul leaving or something. Yeah, I feel that the somebody Ghulam Nabi, right? Okay, I'll come to your question. I feel that the soul. I don't know about leaving. I feel the soul is never in the body anyway. In that sense, that people think the soul is a ghost kind of figure inside you. I've never understood it like that. To me, it's more that the body can connect to consciousness. So I believe in a kind of like a non-local consciousness, but we pick it up. It's like how the handset picks up the signal, and it picks up and it can operate and it can do everything, and you know, it can download movies, and where are these movies? You know, they're just in the air, isn't it? It's just Wi-Fi, and but it can do all of this, obviously certain frequencies, but they're invisible to us. So I feel in many ways we are the same, and the ruh is something out there, but we, with our brain, can connect to it. So we're kind of connected to our particular take. But then there's almost like a social network of this consciousness, I feel. And then maybe that taps into another stream of consciousness ultimately, which ultimately kind of came from God into Adam. But I feel that this, um, and this is what allows people to have a connect without having a physical connect. Like I feel that, you know, the hadith that says that if the souls are kind of they're kind of grouped in together, and those that knew each other before, that they will always have a harmony in this world. I feel that that's what it's kind of referring to. And and I feel sometimes you can create a bond as well in this world that kind of connects the consciousness as well. And hence people who are very close to each other, whether it's through family or loved ones, sometimes have this bond that they, you know, that and the communication that happens at this it's it's low level communication. So it's not like you can send, hey, meet me tomorrow at 7 o'clock. It's not like that. But what it can do is it can trigger. So it can it can I feel people can sense something, like they sense danger for someone, or they sense anxiety, or they suddenly remember someone after not having thought about them for years. Suddenly, um, it's all above probability, these things, and I feel it's to do with that connection. So yeah, that's the and I do think as well that maybe during sleep something happens. You know, during paradoxical sleep, REM. I feel that because the brain becomes so active during REM, it's as active as you are now, if not sometimes even more active, which is crazy. Because for most of the brain cycle, the brain activity drops until it gets really low when you're in deep sleep. And then for REM, for about 60 seconds, it goes so mad. And, you know, then it just once again goes really low. And what is it that the brain's doing at that time? And I feel, I don't know, like, is that the time that, I don't know, consciousness kind of connects, and it has this kind of not bio, this kind of bidirectionality feedback loop. Because if you think about it, the zeitgeist and the feel of an age is not something, you know, contrary to what people think, it's not actually something you just learn. People just change their feel. Like people today accept that slavery is wrong. People today will accept certain things are just wrong, whereas even a few decades ago they may not have. What is it that changed? People say, well, there's been more advertising. Like people today accept racism is wrong, even though there's racist bigots out there. But even they don't like to be called racist because they think, they too deep down accept racism is wrong. Whereas a couple of decades ago, people didn't even accept that. Is it just simply education? Now, education obviously has helped, but I feel that it's almost as though the collective consciousness has changed. But yeah. Who is Ashik Ra? Right, she's 100 years, each and every one of us will be forgotten from this world. Maybe not. Maybe not. Mufti, tell me how to do ghusl properly. All right, there was a question about, is it true that the Grand Ustad of Imam Bukhari made takfir of Imam Malik? Mufti, the Grand Ustad of Imam Bukhari made... Right. I'm not sure of any person making takfir of Imam Malik like that. Not sure of that. I've never come across it. But I know there's been people, they were the odd person who, disagreed with Imam Malik. That would have been more so in his time. Because this person that you're saying, I don't know who you're saying, but if he's a teacher of Imam Bukhari, then he's way after Imam Malik. So I don't think anybody after Malik would have done it. But even if somebody did it, so what? What's the big deal? People today there's people calling everybody a kafir, isn't there? Like, what's the big deal? I'm not familiar with it, but even if they did, so what? Like, I mean, have you even made any waves unless somebody's called you a kafir? Because in Imam Malik's time, I know like some, or maybe like one or two of his teachers they didn't, because some people were dogmatists as well. Obviously, they were dogmatists back then as well. So like people like Ibn Abi Dhi'b of Medina, who I suppose if you want to say he's a teacher of Imam Malik, then yes, of course, but he's a contemporary. He obviously didn't agree with Imam Malik, but Imam Malik would take hadith. He'd take hadith from anyone. I mean, he'd teach hadith as well. So if you had a hadith that was worth collecting, he would collect it, but then he would sift through it. Now, Ibn Abi Dhi'b had an issue with Imam Malik saying that this is a Sahih hadith and we don't act according to it. And that really used to, make that Ibn Abi Dhi'b's blood boil on certain matters. So there are some harsh statements that he said about Imam Malik, but he was a contemporary. If I'm correct, I think he was even older in age than Imam Malik, if I'm correct. Now, if I remember correctly. So I think he made some harsh statements, as in like how today extremists will make it, that, he should repent, otherwise he should be killed. Like that kind of statement about Imam Malik. But so what? What's the big deal? Right. Right. So thoughts on Ibn Rushd's double truth theory. It's not double truth, but I totally agree with all of that, and I've got videos explaining it, that I do believe that there are dimensions to the message, right? There's paradigms, there's dimensions, dimensionality of of the divine message. So now what I mean by that, well, I suppose not, if we don't say it as divine message, but we say as of the message, because the Sharia is not really the divine message per se. It's an interpretation of what the divine message or we think is saying. So what Ibn Rushd had said is that, and I totally agree with that, he said that in this world, not everybody is a philosopher, not everybody is a deep analytic critical thinker, not everybody is capable of profound evaluative thought. And he says that in fact the overwhelming majority of people are not, which is, pretty factual. It's not something he's saying which is harsh. So what he said is that it's like, I don't know now how the classrooms in schools work, but years ago when I used to teach, they used to have, like, so you've got mixed ability, and you would have people who are special needs, so they would call them like SEN. I don't know what now. And then you would have gifted and talented. They would call them back then G&T. Then you would have the majority in the class who also are on a spectrum. Like, it's not, everybody's not equal in their ability to grasp things. And some people are incredibly talented. And this is sometimes within a certain class. I know you have certain in schools, you have certain, obviously you have tiers and people, but within certain classes, they were like this. So what you had to do was you had to set your task as a teacher in a way that would begin by taking in the kind of lower ability pupils, students. It had to begin by taking them in, and it had to really be aimed at the average, but incorporating the lower. And the gifted and talented were expected to be able to achieve more. So there would be certain things within that they could do based on their ability. But you would never set the lesson in accordance to them. You would always set it that it would start by incorporating the lowest ability, and then so as to take in the middle. So in a similar way, now that's years ago, I don't know, the whole teaching thing may have changed now, but Ibn Rushd is arguing that Sharia is very similar, that Sharia is not aimed at the gifted and talented people, that it's actually aimed at the special needs. It's based from them, and it's taking in the common man, who he says the common man, and in his day and age, which still today, is just preoccupied with in surviving and making a living. So he says, these people need to go out, they need to go farming, they need to do this, and these people need structured religion for it to make sense, because they're not gonna, because he says really God wants you to contemplate over him and appreciate and do this, but you can't ask people to do these non-tangible things. As you can ask them, but you can't make that be the religion, because most people at an abstract level are not going to be that person. They're too worried on, like, I need to make sure the crops have grown, I need to do this. And they're not actually, they're just people who get by. They're not creative minds. They're not, I mean, maybe they're creative in their own way, but they're not deeply philosophical. So he says that the Sharia has been highlighted to really cater for these people, and Allah has set it in a way that those who are gifted and talented will figure out the deeper coding themselves. And I agree with that 100%. Because he says that those people who are Ahlul Burhan, that those who are the people of, just as in that work, you wouldn't change the task, you would just allow that, you would know that the gifted and talented would be able to do just different things with it. And they would. So that's how he says that Sharia works. So he says the reason this whole net has been designed to be able to capture everyone. So from the bottom up. So the fact that it's had a structure, that you pray, that we have 5 prayers a day, that we do this, we give visible things. Okay, go to Hajj, do this, do this, do this. This is how we focus. This is how we set out things. Because it's for the common man. And he says that, and religion needs this because the common person needs structure in their life. And you can't just give them abstract, intellectualism, that in fact it would fail with vast majority of mankind, he says, because they're just very busy in trying to make a living. So he says this is why the Sharia is like this. But people who themselves have been gifted by God deeper philosophical understandings, they can dive into the codings of this and realize that deeper messages. All right, you're doing it, Ibn Rushd. This is why you gotta love the Malikiya. Mufti, can you please talk about the actual crime of the people of Lut? The actual crime of the people of Lut was that they rejected God. It was the crime of all the prophets' stories in the Quran were that they rejected God. That was the actual crime. The second thing that is mentioned about them is always secondary. So whether it was, for example, Qawm Shu'aib, is mentioned in the Quran that they, for example, would cheat people in trade. Now, that's something going on everywhere. It's going on today. It's not the reason that they met their doom. It was because they denied God. That's the same with every single prophet. It's not their actual indulgences. Those were just secondary traits that were also added on to show their arrogance. So, I hope that. Right. You teasing me with the annual. This is it, isn't it? It's always, you see, this is the problem, isn't it? People are very it's interesting that it boils down on in a lot of matters just down to the very core fundamental primordial instincts. Like the sax. It does, doesn't it? It's these are the kind of things that Freud did kind of get right. This is why I suppose he was the huge genius that he was. But people, they may not notice it, but a lot of life, a lot of their frustration, a lot of their bitter resentments, a lot of their things that are manifesting in other things just boil down to these simple needs that obviously for them are not being met for whatever reason. Maybe whether it's just opportunity or inadequacy or whatever, but they and this causes huge kind of disturbances, and people sometimes themselves don't understand why these issues. Why am I always angry? Why am I always bitter? Why am I always and it comes down to these issues because there's a restlessness, because they the they don't have it in life, or they're inadequate, and this is a problem. Honestly, you would find that if people were, let's say, they were blissful at their very instinctual need, like their sexual instincts were met blissfully, let's say, you will find those people have a very like a very kind of joyous and happy and positive outlook on life. I'm being honest, and I don't mean temporarily. I don't mean like, obviously sometimes things happen in life that may upset people, or something's going on and it's kind of made them very concerned, but I mean consistently throughout life. Like, I don't mean just this week or this day. I mean generally throughout life. You'll find these people to be very positive, more happy. They usually these kind of people are they, you know they they're always more inclined towards peace. These kind of people, you'll always find them to be more stable, and it's weird because this, because you'd think, well, people won't think of this straight away, and this is why I said, like Freud, on some matters, he really was on the ball, because he he got it right. And this is another thing with religion as well, with capital R, because a lot of institutionalized religion, taking from things like Judaism and Christianity and even institutionalized Islam, it views sex demonically. It sees it as like lust is a dirty thing, and therefore it's okay to get it done, but it's not something one should be, like, it still sees it as quite negatively, even though it says fine and whatever. And even, and I'm not saying Islam sees it like this. Islam does not see sex negatively, but institutionalized Islam does. So even though it allows it, obviously within, it'll say get married and do this, but it doesn't really acknowledge the truer need. It just sees it as almost this is basically procreation or need basis. It's like kind of there. But that's not really acknowledging it. And hence you have these problems because, people are kind of trapped in these, obviously, and the whole Muslim scene when it comes to this one, the whole guilt that it can only be within this institution, and then that institution is like a nightmare for many people because it's their first ever relationship. And, many of these people are like, I don't know, like their cousins. And it's just weird as hell, and people are unfortunately sexually inept, and they don't, and then as life goes on, the intimacy is dead, and then they still have these needs. And then it's like in psychoanalysis, with I was mentioning Freudian psychoanalysis, you have this whole thing of sublimation. So people sublimate their kind of energy into other matters. So they may move it into a profession, they may move it into an art, they may move it into but that's how they vent that thing. And then it may even get to a stage that they've completely forgotten about this because so many years have gone by that this is just robotic, and maybe as a one-off, otherwise their life they think is fine. But if they were to go through therapy and, to unpack at the unconscious, they would realize eventually that, okay, a lot of these, these issues I'm having in life, like these kind of outbursts and these kind of problems here, and this kind of why I'm behaving this way, or why am I unhappy or discontentful, or why do I often, feel more towards miserable than towards happy. They may not know it, but if they went through therapy, they will realize that actually a lot of it ties down to basic creature and basic human needs, which that they've not, have not really been able to indulge in because of the way the culture, the religion, and yeah, definitely. Definitely a lot of the clergy are affected with a lot of this stuff as well, like as it is in Christianity. The priests, it's horrendous, and unfortunately in many in Islam as well. Right, so I don't think you'll have desires in the afterlife. Yeah, and people think uh both Freud and Darwin were pervert people. Just check out their Sachs history. You see, this isn't about whether Freud was perverted or not. It's about seeing that did what he arrive at have any truth to it. I'm not, you don't need to become insecure. Like just because Freud may have discovered this or built on this and popularized this, now we have to say, well, oh my God, well, I'm sure Freud was also a freak. I'm sure he may have been a freak. I mean, what's the big deal? Even if he was a freak, I'm not telling you to become a freak. I'm telling you that just look at his writings. I'm not saying become Freud. I mean, this is another very weak, reactionary, insecure response to say, well, oh, that guy did this. Well, oh, that guy lived 150 years ago. The world was a nightmare 150 years ago. So, what I would say is that the theories, and not all the theories need to be true, but I think on some he was like him, what he spoke about the unconscious. Freud really brought that to the world. Today you take it as a given. You only really have this understanding of the unconscious because of Freud. He brought it out, when he practiced in his early years, when he practiced, hypnotism, and he realized, and I'm not saying nobody before him had ever dabbled in the unconscious, but he really brought this out. And he understood that the unconscious is what makes us operate in ways, but we don't understand it. And he was on the, he was on the ball. I mean, he was dead on point with that. And he also he emphasized the fact that from all instinctual needs, the sexual instinct is one that perhaps has the most impact on our psyche without us realizing from a unconscious perspective. I think he's on the point with that. But yeah. But he may be weird in other things. Like, you don't need to dismiss somebody just because they did some weird things or whatever. All right. What's the response to Ghazali's formulation of Cartesian doubt? In deliverance from error, my reason helps me realize my sense faculty can be wrong. How can I be certain my rational faculty is not wrong? Yeah, I mean, you see, Imam Ghazali arrives at this before Descartes, but Imam Ghazali, fair enough, 900 years ago, what could you do? So he eventually just kind of surrenders it all by saying, you know what, I just rely on God, and the way I've found my salvation is by becoming a hermit. And that was his response 900 years ago, I think, and it saved him, and hence he writes his al-Munqidh min al-Dalal. But we have come a long way from that. A long way, wallahi. And I feel along the way, science and technology have helped massively. Because we have discovered so much. You have to remember, these people, for them, they didn't even understand, like, they wouldn't have truly grasped solar systems. They wouldn't have truly grasped, they would never have known about galaxies. They would never have known about universes like this. They would never have even understood existence like that. They would, like, they may have had a theory, but they would never have known. All they have is the night sky, and they have stars, and they understand these planets that kind of seem to rotate as well, that are like stars, but they behave differently. They understood this, but they didn't have but we today, but in the past, they just had philosophy. They looked up at the stars and they philosophized. But we today have actualized that knowledge, where we couldn't reach, our knowledge has reached. Then we brought it into the quantum. We've dealt with the untenable. We've handled the unhandleable. It's like, it's crazy, because we locked in a rule, or a system of logic and reason and rationality, and use science to discover things. And as we got deeper and deeper, we broke into quantum physics, which then destroyed all our understanding of logic in that world. And then we made sense of that, at least to get by with. It's wow. Honestly, jo guzari na ja sake humse. In the words of John Elia, he says, jo guzari na ja sake humse, humne wo zindagi guzari. That's a life that, I mean, allegorically speaking, that could not have been lived. We have lived that life. So I feel we have reached, like, we have gone light years ahead of where Imam Ghazali was. The problem is that most people don't understand this stuff, so they don't appreciate it, because they don't understand physics. They don't understand. I mean, I accept that quantum physics. Does anybody really understand it? But they haven't even encountered what it's about. So to them, they're still living in a kind of Newtonian world, which is still ahead of Ghazali, but it's Imam Ghazali, but it's not, it's still a bit behind. So, yeah, it's true. This could all be a dream for all we know. That is true. This would, we could just be, just a brain in a jar somewhere. That's true. It's like somebody said that this whole universe could just be in a jar on a shelf, a -C project for an average achieving student somewhere. It could be, but the fact that the mind can even conceptualize that, to me, speaks volumes. So I feel that, yeah, to me, the fact that God is out there is through consciousness. The fact that we are conscious, to me, is that sign. I get for Descartes, it was the fact that we think, which in some way was kind of consciousness, but he doesn't term it as, cogito ergo sum. I suppose that I have cognition. So in some way, he is kind of saying that as well. But the fact that we have this consciousness that allows us to wonder and ponder, to me, reflects the necessity of a divine. But that's to me. So, yeah. All right, what is going on? Right, I don't know what's going on there. Something in the chat. Mariam, right, or any verses from the Quran where people will infer this hellfire will freeze over during Ramadan? No, there's no verses like that about hellfire and Ramadan, etc. But there's hadith saying that the shayateen will be locked up and stuff, and basically that just means it'll be easier to do good deeds, and there'll be more. And people, what that means is like you'll find yourself in this spirit being able to do more good, and whether that's through the collective consciousness or how that manifests. Apparently it does definitely manifest because there's a social spirit. People are more charitable and they do more good things, which is great. um what are your thoughts on a flat earth? I'm not going to even dignify that nonsense. uh Zeba says, I think increasing in knowledge is above the sacks. I agree. I agree. You see, because what I was saying is you have to look at the mind from two, you have to compartmentalize it. You have the unconscious and the conscious. So the conscious being, our has an instinctual need, which is wonder and curiosity. And then there's the unconscious being, which is more linked with survival. And it's not but it seems to have a kind of like a mind, but not, it's not the conscious mind though, which is really our prefrontal cortex and our planning and our thinking. And this is driven by a deep, profound curiosity to understand things, which to me, by the way, is also an argument for the existence of God. The intelligibility, as in the intelligibility of being, is a necessary proof to me for intelligent creation, because the intelligibility, the fact that it can be understood by default, that being has this intelligibility to it, and to be grasped, demonstrates that somebody must have created it that way, just as the bit precedes the it. And nowadays with DNA, you see, because for life, when they say, well, life just emerged, primordial life, but it emerged with DNA, and DNA is coding, and it is coded. So you see, to code it in an intelligible way for proteins to behave in a certain manner dictates the intelligibility of however it got there. So these arguments, the problem is these arguments, people can't understand them, therefore they don't appreciate them. But yes, I agree, for the conscious mind, it's always about knowledge. But for the subconscious mind, I feel it is to do with certain instincts, drive. And then what happens is repression. So when you repress something, you push it deeper into the unconscious. Now, it may then kind of reactionarily manifest in certain ways. It may trigger you to make certain conscious choices, not knowing why you made them in life. So that's, let me just see it. I may have missed some super chats. I responded to that. Ramadan gift, yeah. Mufti, Rami, you're doing it. Much love. Ramadan Mubarak. Have you read Al-Hujjah ala Ahl al-Madinah by Shaybani? I have, years ago. Shukran for the super chat. That's basically Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani. His, what I saw as was just an arrogant attempt to respond to Imam Malik. And really, when he wrote that book, scholars who were neutral, they looked at him, they looked at the title, and they said, anybody who wrote this has just, he's failed right there. Because the title is the argument against the people of Medina. And Islam is simply Medina. So, if your whole premise begins with, this is my argument against Medina, then you can keep it. Because for us, Islam began in its true understanding and in its explanation. It was lived and it remains rested in Medina. And it was then captured and taught by Imam Malik, who was the Don of Medina. So if your argument is against Medina and its practices, then you have already lost. And this is why Imam Shaybani, his book never really gained any prominence, because he lost the moment he began by penning that title. Now, had he said against Imam Malik, it would have been different, but he doesn't. See, his point wasn't just Imam Malik. He begins by trying to say Ahlul Medina are wrong in their understanding. And you think, acha, why don't you go back to Kufa and Baghdad and rest? Because it is in Medina, as Imam Malik said, that the Quran was revealed. And it is in Medina that the Prophet ﷺ lived and taught, and it is in Medina that the Prophet ﷺ remains rested. So Imam Malik said, with that I rest my case. So he said, you can have whatever city you want, but the Islam of the people of Medina will always reign supreme. And this is one of the things that really it shines in an era of darkness, if you like, or a platform of darkness. This is what it shines that light on the school of Medina, the Maliki madhab, because of the school is, and I'm not saying, look, every fatwa, every understanding has to be, like that, but it is the school that tries at least to capture the practice of Medina. And I'm not saying it captured necessarily every practice, but that is what it was trying to do. Right. Dervish, I missed your super chat. Much love for the super chat. Incognito. And this one is for Farid blocking me on Twitter. Ganguteli, that one's going out for you, man, so you burn. Right. Much love, yaar. Don't worry, yaar. As I've said to Farid, he can send me his PayPal and I will send over a gift for him. Mufti Abu Layth, much love, my dua. May Allah bless you and your family. Shukran, likewise. Right, so people, I think we need to start wrapping up. This has gone on way too long, and I feel, is Adam for real literal? I do believe Adam alayhi salam was a literal person, and I have got a video explaining what my thoughts on Adam are. I do accept some people see him as a metaphor. Zeba, that is why I would only have a child with an intelligent and good man. May Allah bless you with that and bless everyone with that. Ameen. Right, is Adam literal again? Acha. Well, you see, Adam, in my understanding, is literal. Yes, I do believe that. I believe he was the father of the cognitive revolution. Gangu can be your assistant. I'd love to, take him out somewhere. Get him a meal or something. Just make him, yeah, talk to me about your issues, man. What's her name? Oh, sorry, what's his name? that's all it is with these people. They really are just suffering in life. Like they've boxed themselves into this cult-like mentality, and they can't enjoy life, and they hate that others can, because their only solace before was that, well, okay, we won't enjoy life, but that's because we're going to get it in the akhirah. And then along comes somebody like me. It's like a huge thorn in the, because it makes them think that, well, actually, no, you missing out is just your loss, because you could be enjoying everything. And that just makes it, because it would mean their entire sacrifice and life, miserable life, amounts to nothing. It's just been an arbitrary choice of misery. So you can understand, I guess, why they have a problem. Binyamin, Ramadan Mubarak Mufti, shukran for the super chat. Much love, much love. Gym routines, yeah, I've just gone back today. It's been ages, and I made an Insta thing saying I've just been baptized again. All right. Thank you for being my light through the deen. Geo. All right. So creepy, though, thinking about people's... It is. It's a sad topic, but it is. This is why I say, people, listen, the Lord has made this dunya for you. Let me give you some advice, people. And what we'll do is we'll wrap this up, because somebody had messaged me, and it ties a bit into this. They'd asked me about, about advice on enterprising and, entrepreneurship and stuff. And the issue with, is this wrong to want money? And I thought that's a very good, honest question. And or should this be condemned? Should people just stick to their means and as into the necessities? So look, I am very clear that I advise everyone to think entrepreneurially. Okay, I really do. I think people should, they should have enterprises. They should be enterprising, and I think make money. I'm definitely down with that from a business perspective. I'm not saying you need to. I'm not saying, if you're somebody that, doesn't really you're not driven like that, that's fine. But there's something important. I'd like to caveat what I've just said, because it's important that I do, because it would be misunderstood otherwise. You see, and this ties into to this as well, what I was just saying about the dunya, that Allah has placed you on this world. I'm very keen about people, making money. In whatever field, business, enterprising, entrepreneurially, think outside the box. And I definitely think that is, important, unless people don't want to, which is fine. However, and I'm speaking personally here, right? I would say that, look, love money, there's nothing wrong with that, but لغيره. Look, why do you want money? Why do you want money? Because of the amenities that it can bring for you. So love them. Like, if you want to love something, love those things, being able to, have those indulgences, whatever they are, whether it's things that you can. So, for example, people might love being able to go on holiday. They may love being able to buy certain clothes. They may love being able to have the luxury to, buy gifts, or buy, whether it's for themselves or other people, or have luxurious things. They may love that. They may love being able to help someone. Honestly, these things are very rewarding. They may love just being able to spend, buy loads of things, whatever they're gadgets or whatever it is. There's nothing wrong in loving these things. Okay, these things are of this world, and Allah has put you in this world to enjoy this world. But I would say don't love money for and of itself. Love it for these things. Yeah, sure. That it gives. It's like, in fact, I think there was a lecture by Shah Rukh Khan actually where he said, where he was speaking about money, and he said that I always tell people that get rich first, then become a philosopher. Which is an amazing point I thought he made. He was saying that to, I think, university. He was lecturing at a university to university students. But look, so love these things. Love amenities. Love being able to buy stuff, because what happens is as you make money, you will do these things and these things will come into your life. So now, for example, let's say you are making money and you think, well, you know what, I love being able to go and eat different foods and go to play, and you're doing that. So that's coming into your, mentally, it's coming into your life. It's coming. I love to be able to go on a holiday, and you're going on holidays. I love to be able to have such and such a car, or buy such and such clothes, or or do something for someone. I love to be able to buy this for them. That brings immense happiness. I love to be able to see my children, enjoying these things. And you're seeing these things happen and materialize, and it's bringing, it's rewarding. But the problem is, if you love money just for money, the problem with that is, you see, you're just counting a number. Like, let's say now it's, I don't know, it's 35, now it's 42, now it's 56, now it's, and the problem with that is, the more you, like, let's say the number is going up, but if you spend it, the number goes down. So subconsciously, whether you think about it or not, but it impacts you, because you think, oh, well, and you just hold on to just money for the sake of money. Whereas if you're loving the amenities, the things which you really want money for, then they are actually increasing in your life, and you're seeing them, and you're happy to spend, because that is what you value. It's not just money in and of itself, because this will just depress you then, because what will happen is the number's going up, it's going up, but if you start spending it, this is going down, I don't like that. Then, so subconsciously you get trapped. So I would strongly advise people that, look, these are gifts from Allah. Yeah, you are in this world. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. Why would you deny yourself gifts and bounties of the Lord when He has given them to you, if you are there, or to pursue them? And the hadith says that Allah loves to see His servant, male or female, it's not specific, that indulging in the bounties that Allah has given them. Inna Allah yuhibbu an yara athara ni'mati ala abdi. So that is absolutely, is as halal as chilled cold water. It is as halal as chilled refreshing water, as Imam Malik would say. The thing is that people may demonize it, but I think there's nothing, absolutely, it's a good thing. The only problem, and I would strongly warn against it, is loving money for money, because that will psychologically cripple you, and it will turn you into a miserable person, and it will make you all tight and fisted and stingy and miserable and seeing everything. And this is why there's such a beautiful dua that Allahumma ja'alid dunya fi aydina, that, oh Allah, give us the dunya, place it right here in our hands, wala taj'alha fi qulubina, but not in our hearts. And I thought that's such a beautiful dua. So people, we shouldn't think this is an ascetic religion where we have to abstain from worldly things. Not at all. So, and the reason that ties into exactly what I was saying, that we are in this dunya and the deen complements us. And it isn't about somebody saying, if you ain't got no money, inshallah, inayah, Queen Inayah, Allah will shower upon you infinite streams of, inshallah, wealth to come. Ameen. And all of you guys, that you and you know what? I'll add a little note to that as well, right? I'll add a little note to that as a footnote to what I just said about money and, wanting it, but for other things. There is an inexplicable, you know how quantum physics works, people, in the sense that it's illogical, but it works. Something is in two places at once. It's irrational, but it is. You just got to go with it. So I'm going to tell you something that's going to seem perceptibly irrational or illogical or counterintuitive. And that is that, when you want to get in this world and you want Allah to, just unleash, just open the floodgates of his rizq upon you, counterintuitively, you have to inculcate within you have to develop within you the art of giving. And that sounds so counterintuitive because you think, well, no, I want to get, I don't want to give. I haven't got to that stage to give. I need to get. But there is a weird kind of, it's like a weird balance. And it doesn't make any sense. It's like you're at this cliff and you're being told to leap. And there's the undeniable, impending fear of doom and of falling. But it's only with that irrational leap that you can soar the skies. And this is something so counterintuitive because people think, well, no, I want more. If I start giving, I have less. But believe me when I say that it is hidden in plain sight, that Allah has hidden rizq in the art of giving. And it's right there, it's counterintuitive, it's staring you in the face. But it's the least way you'd expect it. And I think that Ramadan has come, and it's a great time to sometimes think. And it's not about, I don't just mean by this you have to give money like this. It could be other things as well. And it could be, it's not just like, oh, I walk past and I give someone something. There's an art of giving. It's about crushing that kind of coveting thing within the soul that finds it, that kind of stingy, it's about extinguishing that, really. And I would say it begins with people who are around you. It begins with family. It begins by those around you. That's where it first begins. And then, it kind of pans out. But yeah, that I had to put that footnote there because I feel that is something that is really important and it's counterintuitive and it does require tawakkul. But inshallah, you will see. If only Mufti gets his own show on Netflix. Mufti Saab, I am nursing a semi. Haramio, baaz aa jao. Right, people, let's wrap this up, man. Let's wrap this up. If I were a billionaire, I'd spread Mufti's message. Inayaji, you don't know the future. There's many great things yet to unfold, inshallah, for you, as there are for everyone here. So, people, you know what? Ramadan right here for many of you. So let's wrap this up. Right, it's gone on quite a bit. Somebody just sent a Rock Black super chat. Shukran, Ramadan Mubarak to you and your family, your followers, and the beloveds. Of course, to all our beloveds, guys. I hope you have an awesome Ramadan, huh? Right, so And what is the ruling of start and finish of the fast in a day? We didn't actually deal with many topics about Ramadan today. It was just like a really good kind of, just, I suppose, just a nurturing the ruh kind of session. So, but I think that's a great question. Look, I was asked another question as well about Ramadan. I'll tackle that as well. And that was, so this is about the fast. How do we fast? And somebody had, you know, asked that, there's this whole feel of Ramadan and stuff, and they don't really, they themselves don't really feel it. Is that is that bad? Are they a bad person? So that's a very good question. So firstly, fasting. I would say, when do you fast? You can go, it's absolutely fine with the differences. You can go with whether it's your family or whatever. So if you're doing it shortly now or tomorrow, it's absolutely fine. I don't feel that one is necessary over the other. Okay, fine. What about timings? Once again, I would say you can follow any calendar that you have. You can follow your local masjid. You can follow one from your city or your country that you find online. Absolutely fine. They may have diversity in them, so you may follow one that gives you more ease. Absolutely fine. Right. What are some of the leeways or the in this? I have got a video and I explained in great detail in the last 2 years that, look, are people allowed to time their fasts and have time responsive fasts as opposed to the regular fasts? So I have mentioned, and I've got a detailed response available online. You'll find it if you search keywords on YouTube. That, yes, I do believe that fatwa is valid. That if historically, and it's based going back through the Egyptian al-Azhari fatwa, going back and then being re-endorsed by many people. I have said that, look, I've endorsed the fatwa that if you historically look and you take day and night as two halves, day would then make 12 hours. So because Arabia was pretty close to the equator, it would have been reasonably static throughout. So they say anything 12 hours above is a valid fast. Now, if people were to take that because life is difficult for them, there's a lot, whatever reason, people have their own reasons. You see, I can't judge your reason because a particular reason of yours may be nothing to me, but maybe a reason of mine may be nothing to you. Like, we're not to judge. Allah is only to judge us. But if a person was to take that fatwa and decide, you know what, I'll tell you what, I'll have a 13-hour fast. I'll have anything from 12 hours onwards. So people may have 12, people may have 13, 14. I mean, if they go over that, they could just go with the normal timing, I guess, because that's, they're going to be about 16 hours anyway. So in these situations, I feel that fatwa is valid for people who need it. How do you know you need it? Well, nobody can judge that. If you felt you needed it and you took it, I feel it is valid. Okay? I feel nobody else can judge you. In line with that, okay, how do these timings work then? So with that, people have disagreed. Some people had said, look, why don't you just start it when everybody starts it and then you just count the hours? Fine. Some people had just said, look, arbitrarily, you could just set a time. So if people said, I don't know, let's say sunrise was at averaging, because it may vary, whatever. Let's say they set like 4 a.m. I'm just going to close my fast at 4 a.m. and I'm going to open it at 6 p.m. Fine. Or they said, I'm going to open it at 5 p.m. That would be valid according to that fatwa. Okay. Now, So it can have somewhat of an arbitrary nature that makes life easy for them. That's how I've seen those people who do that. That's how I've seen them do it. They just tend to take an arbitrary time, which is usually close to the normal sahur kind of sunrise thing, and they just stick to it. But some people I've seen, they just go with the sahur time and just count the hours forward like that. So these things are fine. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm not saying you need to do that. All I'm saying is people who do that, it's not your place to condemn them or judge them. Okay, so their fast is valid in my understanding, and it's between them and God. There's the issue. Some people say that can they not fast because of certain difficulties? Sometimes there's exams, sometimes there's other things. Sometimes it really makes life quite difficult for them in their, there's certain people who, for example, um, even, just due to their overall health, if they're not consuming water regularly, it impacts them negatively. There's some people who, due to their work environment, just don't have that luxury to, be kind of whatever. Look, if you are in a position where you cannot fast, my first point is it is your call. Ultimately, I cannot make that call. You are, as Imam Shatibi says, faqihun nafs. You have to decide whether you are, you can do it or not. And if you feel that, this is too much for me right now, then you can choose not to fast. But what do you do instead? So the first option would be that you would make this fast up later on. If you felt that, for where you are in the world, that you can't, but I would feel most people can make it up. But if you felt for some reason, like let's say it's this health condition, like, my kidneys, I need to be drinking certain water every so many hours, then that's not going to change. Or I'm in this job and this job doesn't change. I'm in this job. In that case, I would say that you give fidya for each day that you miss. Okay. And this is based on the apparent reading of the Quran, that وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ, and as to those who are capable of fasting but don't, that what is obligatory for them. So Allah says وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ, and it's obligatory for those يُطِيقُونَهُ, who are actually capable, as in physically they could do it. They have the physical, like if they were stretched, they could physically do it. They have the taqa. وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ, that they then give a fidya instead, طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ. Now I know the majority scholars interpret this verse because apparently it reads as exactly as I've told you. So they say no, there's a negative missing here. So وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ لَا يُطِيقُونَهُ, on those who are not capable, but Allah just dropped the not. So I find that a bit poor of an attempt to reconcile such an important word of the Quran. Because you're saying Allah, that he put in a positive with the affirmative where there was meant to be a negative. I mean, that's an absolute opposite. It's like me saying go, and then you say yeah, but he forgot the word, or he missed the word don't. That is exactly what they're saying here. So I feel that Allah left that in there for all time, that they will, whenever, because Islam is to reach all time and all people, and there will be a people who for some reason may need to lean in on that verse and use it as a source of mercy for them. And ultimately is Allah's Quran, it is ultimately, this is it's nobody's personal deen, it's not your dad's deen. And if people felt that dire need to lean in on it, then fine. It is there, it is a clear verse of the Quran. Now, people will say that, Mufti, by saying this stuff, you're giving people an excuse not to fast. I would say, in response to that first of all, that's not what I'm doing. I'm just explaining the deen as it is. I'm not going to hide things which are clear verses of the Quran. That would be a hypocrisy on my part. Secondly, what I'm going to say is that, look, why does it bother you? Like, why does it? Because, look, to me, if I'm going to fast, why do I care whether the other person is not going to? I mean, sure, I would like people to, but I need to focus on my own deen. Look, that's like me saying that I'm only going to pray if everybody prays. Why? I'm only going to be a nice human being if everybody's a nice human being. Oh, I'm fasting. Why is he not fasting? Since everybody should be fasting. Otherwise, why am I fasting? You're fasting because is your commitment to Allah. It is not. You see, whether he or she fasts, who cares? Okay, fine. You would like it's like I would like everybody on earth to be a good person, to be a nice person, but that shouldn't stop me from not being a good person. I shouldn't think, well, why is he not being a good person? Why should I then be a good person? See, we should focus on ourselves. It shouldn't bother me, because if it bothers me that much, then that problem lies within me. That goes to show that I've got a problem with what I'm doing. That I don't even want to be doing it. And that is a problem, because if you are doing something just, God has forced me to do this. That's not how I do things personally. And I don't recommend that be your take on your deen. That it's something you just do almost as a punishment. Because that, to be honest, that is the punishment response, isn't it? Like if we're all sitting here chilling and somebody came in and said, I've got to do this, then that would be my response. Let's be real, isn't it? I would be like, but why do they get to chill then? That's because it's like a punishment, isn't it? It's like I'm doing something I don't want to do it. I completely dislike it. I want to do this. So I have a problem with what you're telling me. So I'm saying, well, either make all of us do it or don't make me do it. And that's usually to do with punishments. And fasting is not a punishment, or these things are not a punishment. Okay. So and that ties into the next point that people would say, well, Mufti, if they fast 16, 17 hours, they really feel it. By telling somebody to fast 12 hours above. And by the way, I'm not the one who's come up with that. That fatwa has been going on for decades on end, but I just also endorse its validity. Mufti, by telling somebody to fast, I don't know, anything 12 hours forward, let's say 12, 13 hours onwards, is nothing. Somebody could just, whatever, it's piece of cake. You could start your fast at, I don't know, let's say they said somebody started it at 4 and opened it at 5. That's nothing, right? Because they didn't even really starve. They just, well, my answer to you is that the fasting was not about starving. Fasting was not about, it was about a personal commitment. So you have got the very basis of it wrong, right? So, Mufti, you have 15 minutes to have your last meal. I'm not fasting today. I'm starting it on Wednesday. I said that in the beginning. Guys, let's wrap this up. Have an awesome time wherever you are. I know you guys are not... right. Oh, damn. I did say I'll mention as well. Look, this topic, if you don't find... somebody said they don't find these things very spiritual, like in the sense everybody else does. Are they a bad person? No, they're not a bad person. It doesn't... Just because, look, it is a great vibe for many people, this whole Ramadan thing, or things like Hajj, or things like a community spirit. But there will be some people, maybe it doesn't create that vibe in you. Like you have introverts, extroverts, you'll have people who enjoy certain vibes, people who don't. It's not a reflection of your faith. Okay, it's not. It's just, some people may not vibe with certain kind of things. Right. So I feel you don't need to be guilty for that. Okay. That's not a requirement of Ramadan. That's just a bonus if it happens. Some people, they don't necessarily like those things. So fair enough. That's just them. Like some person may go on Hajj and they may hate being in crowds. And therefore they don't like that feel all the way. The whole thing, they feel that, oh my God, I'm going through this. It's just hardship here, there. They don't like it at all. And everybody else says, oh, I feel so spiritual. I had a great experience. They come back from Hajj and deep down they say, to be honest, it was just a rough and tough experience. And I didn't feel so super spiritual. Does that mean my Hajj isn't accepted? No, not at all. It's not, this isn't like a drug. It isn't a feel good thing. If for some people they feel good with it, that's a bonus, but that's not how it's measured. So I hope that helps people. Take care. Have an awesome evening, night, wherever you are. Remember me in your kind du'as. Inshallah, stay connected. If you haven't already liked and subscribed, then do so. My YouTube people, get on there, get subbing, click the notification icon. I do respond more so to messages on Instagram. Why, I don't know. It's just quite easy to do so as opposed to Facebook Messenger. But some people have mentioned suggestions for Mind Trap guests. Reach out to me, reach out to them, let me know. Let's set this up, people. And most importantly, people, remember to just enjoy, okay, the gifts that Allah has granted you with. Right? Take very good care of yourselves. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, people. Signing out.